you for being here. And those of you who are watching us on TV.
Hello.
Your mic is working.
I'm just trying to get back in the groove. Give me a moment.
Commissioner McKenzie's having a moment here. Would you like to sing the national anthem and lead us in? No, Zach will be upset. So anyway, before we begin, I know we're coming off the Memorial Day weekend, and I just want to thank all the folks in our community who enjoyed all the festivities that we had organized and planned. Thank you all for participating. But really, I think a shout out goes to our first responders, our police department, our firefighters for really keeping our city safe. And everyone felt really good coming to the beach and other places around our community because I know we've had challenging times in the past, but I'll tell you, our hats go off to each and every one of you who were there to be able to participate. Also at the Memorial Day service we had yesterday, thank you all for who participated. And I want to say that it's a tradition that we hope to continue to have year after year. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it last year because of COVID restrictions, but I want to say that thanks to the Parks and Rec Department for organizing that, putting all that together. I know that it isn't easy each time, but thank you for all you did. The Great American Beach Party, the memorial service, everything really went off without a hitch, and we received a lot of compliments from people thanking us for doing this and telling me multiple times how proud they are to live in the city of Fort Lauderdale. So again, thank you for all of that. So folks, we have our afternoon agenda, and we start with the communications to the City Commission. And we have a couple. First, the Infrastructure Task Force. They made a couple of interesting requests from us. One is through a motion that was made by Peter Partington and seconded by Jackie Scott, that we should consider the condition of water, sewer, and stormwater infrastructure impacts on developments in addition to capacity. But I think we have been doing that, have we not? Mr. City Manager, don't we always respond to questions that say, how is this impacting existing infrastructure? Do you want to comment on this?
Sure, I'd be happy to, and then I'll let the city attorney comment as well. We do capacity analysis and issue capacity letters.
Not just capacity.
We do look at condition, although we have not been able to tie condition to either agreement to allow development or not. We have addressed it, and when it's needed to be upgraded or we felt as though there was an opportunity to have a portion upgraded and we would match with a longer segment, we would do that. But I think we can certainly tie it to capacity, but condition is a little bit difficult to tie either yes or no to the development project too.
We've briefly looked at condition, but it's actually not part of your code. It's not part of the requirements of your code. Capacity is, condition is not. The trouble we get into with condition is the impact has to be directly correlated to that particular project that's seeking approval. It's very hard to quantify or measure their proportionate impact based on the quality and age of the infrastructure. So obviously, if you have a catastrophic event that's about to occur that we think is imminent, obviously that's a no-brainer. Any new development may impact that and likely will do so. But in conditions where it's old condition, it's not the greatest condition, we can look at it, but one, it's not in your code, so it's not a requirement. And two, even if you were to put it in your code, it gets tricky because it's hard to quantify the proportion impact from that project to the actual age and condition. So not impossible, but it's going to be tough.
Well, I know that a number of projects that we've addressed, that the ones that have been approved often come with promises by the developer to either contribute to a fund or to actually improve a certain segment of whether it be a sewer line or whatever. So somehow in a sort of ad hoc way, we are undertaking the same measurement.
Right. And they've done so voluntarily. The problem we get into is if we require that or make that to be something we expect, it turns into potentially an exaction under Florida statutes, which again would be unlawful. So it's tricky how it happens. Obviously, as you've correctly stated, some have come at the table knowing the condition of the sewers to go ahead and put that in voluntarily.
Do you have any comments on that, Ms. Pomano, since you're the chair? You heard all that. Is there any, do you have any questions? Kamana? And as you're approaching, there's a second motion that was made to us asking us to have a workshop to discuss next steps for the Infrastructure Task Force Committee. And I see we're being handed a manifesto. It's not quite the, it's not quite, what is this? Okay, these are the same motions, right?
Yes, but comments. All right, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners, and welcome back to the in-person meeting.
Wait. Your microphone needs to be turned on.
We're good? Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners.
Great.
And welcome back to in-person meetings, and the beach party was spectacular. When you established the Infrastructure Task Force in February of 2020 and gave it a 2-year term until February 2022, you continued the original mission of the committee to report on infrastructure, and then you added a specific task, and that was to evaluate and provide a recommendation on the feasibility and impact of implementing a moratorium on the acceptance of an application for or the issuance of a development permit. Due to the pandemic, we didn't begin to meet again until the summer of 2020, but this item has been on our agenda every month since. At our May 3rd meeting, we voted unanimously to send you the 2 communications that you've already seen, so I don't have to repeat that. As you can imagine, we consulted extensively with the city's attorney office, staff of Public Works Department, and Department of Sustainable Development. We reviewed the work of city consultants related to the consent order and the progress of same, as well as budget projections for the next 5 years. All of this work, which cannot be summarized at this meeting, went into forming our recommendations. You and the public need to see this material and understand how we came to this conclusion. That is why the second motion requesting an opportunity to discuss this with the commission was made. We urge you to set aside some time at a conference meeting in September for this purpose. Specifically regarding the portion of our recommendation that the current ordinance governing development permit applications be amended to include explicit consideration of condition in the infrastructure. This comports with the city manager's memo to you dated April 19, 2021. He then further commented and offered some cautions, observations, and qualifications regarding how to move forward should the commission accept our recommendation. We should have this conversation about these as well as to broaden our thinking to include possible non-ordinance solutions. All of this can be discussed at the proposed workshop. It would also be appropriate at that time to summarize our work to date and get a sense from the commission as to what priorities we should focus on in the remaining time we have. Thank you, and looking forward to seeing you in September. So
Thank you, Marilyn.
on their comments are, we were in agreement. If you want to consider condition, and you have discussed this.
Yeah, you got to speak in the mic.
Yes, you have. We think that it is possible. It is difficult, as the city's attorney mentions, but we have seen enough material in our deliberations during our meetings that we think that there is a way to handle this. Maybe not full on changing to the ordinances, but the way we do it now is kind of ad hoc. We're hoping that everybody sort of is in tune and doing the right thing. And we think that it should be a more rigorous review on the condition front. But I think the important thing that we mentioned to you today is that we have fulfilled our obligation to you regarding a moratorium. And we do not believe at this time that a moratorium is necessary, given the extensive work that has gone on since we were first put together in March of 2017. But we'd like to present all that material to you and continue this discussion because it's a complicated discussion and it cannot be, it wouldn't be fair to you and to the public to have it at this brief meeting. So we hope to see you in September to continue the discussion. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, that's actually a major milestone for you to come to us with that recommendation. So good to know. Anyone have any questions of Marilyn?
Yeah, could I?
Marilyn, you want to stay back
Quick
up
question,
there?
Marilyn. Thanks, Marilyn.
Can you come up here because Commissioner Sorensen wants to interrogate you?
Yes, please. Just 2 hours of questioning for you. Thanks, Marilyn, and thanks to ITF for their work. In looking at being more explicit about conditions, have you seen any municipalities in the state that have more kind of explicit requirements for conditions and development?
We did not do a review of how this could be implemented or how it has been implemented. Our review focused on the materials that we saw relative to condition, the process that the city goes through now to review these applications, and we believe that there is a need, a very definite need to explicitly and specifically and in some organized way include condition. And we understand the city's attorney's concerns, and they are absolutely correct. It will not be easy, and you have to tread a fine line, but we believe that it can be done, and we want to have that discussion with you in September.
Thanks, Marilyn. Alan and Chris, is that something we can look at, what municipalities are doing that's best practices for that? Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks, Marilyn. Thanks, Mayor.
Anything else?
Mayor, are we going to be able to schedule that joint meeting in September?
Yeah, well, our staffs can coordinate that.
Okay. We're going to
September? Okay.
September's fine. We'll be ready.
see you in September.
Isn't there a song?
Yes, there is.
You want to sing it?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Our next communications is with the Marine Advisory Board. And I didn't quite understand this communication. Is there anyone here from the Marine Advisory Board? It's something about prohibiting dockage along a certain section of Riverwalk, but it doesn't say where.
I can let them describe it, or I think I grasp it based on the context of the communication. It would be in the area right there by Stranahan House Icon, I believe, is where they're
and Salt 7.
Correct.
Okay, so they're saying don't do it.
The communication I read it to be that they're not recommending that be allowed for dockage because of the width of the river and
at that section. Is there a pending application for dockage?
That
there?
I don't know. I know there's been discussion. Have we seen a pending application in that area?
Please step forward, Mr. Sustainability Department.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Commission. Anthony Fajardo, Department of Sustainable Development. I haven't seen an application for that area, although I know that there was interest expressed in allowing dockage there, but that's really all the information that I have.
And Mayor, just from my perspective, I've heard some interest, but nothing specific at all. Yeah. And Marine Association reached out to me with a similar communication. So, yep.
Yeah, it's a tight area. I mean,
right.
There's a lot of currents going on in around that corner, that bend, but I don't know how to navigate a 300-foot boat anyway. So, okay.
Mayor, can I just ask Anthony a question?
Oh, sure.
So, Anthony, have you had a chance to look at this communication, and then are you in agreement with the verbiage in here about it specific to condition 15 and full compliance with the DEP permit? Does that all sound right to you?
So what I know about the DEP permit is that they allowed the Riverwalk connection in that location, but they specifically also did not want to see dockage there because of the narrowness of the waterway. That's really all I have. I wasn't involved in that conversation with DEP at the time the permit was applied for.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any questions, Robert?
No,
you're good.
Kind of cleared it up for me.
Okay.
I think it's just what they're trying to do is like every other restaurant on the water is have people be able to come by boat. And when you ride the rivers as much as I do on the weekends, I love the waterways. We go to dinner quite often via boat. And I think the wharf,
it'd be nice.
We get a lot of traffic there, and then some people are out on their boats partying and drinking, and going in and out of those establishments.
You said you weren't going to tell,
but I wasn't at that party. But I think that's what they're trying to do: get Icon a different.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
to get there.
Thing is, we have a water taxi stop just a few feet just to
the east, I believe.
So a boat could dock there too, can it not? It just can't dock, but it can let.
I don't know that it's exclusive to the water taxi or not. Maybe Andrew might be able to help.
Look who's here.
Yes. Hi. The difference is the water taxi comes and goes. It does not stay there for an extended period of time and therefore is not considered a navigational obstacle.
So, but a vessel other than the water taxi could also drop off passengers there too.
That's not correct.
It's not correct. So only the water taxi can do it.
Yes. And the concern that as I understood it, was that there was no fencing there, which was part of the permit. The original permit required fencing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. So, yeah. All right. Moving on to old business, new business, business one, joint governmental campus complex update. Who will be giving that?
So we're going to tag team that one a little bit. I'll begin with a lead in, and then Susan Grant is going to get situated at the podium. She'll do some of the finer detail presentation. Just to bring the commissioners up to speed as to where we are, I wanted this on the agenda in advance of the next June 10th UDPA meeting, which is the joint meeting that we'll have with the county. What's anticipated at that meeting is that you will receive presentations from the consultants that we have hired to walk you through the different RFQ responses that were delivered to that competitive solicitation that we did jointly as a body, us and the county. They're going to walk you through, and you'll have an opportunity to look at it ahead of time. They're going to walk you through different matrices, different financial opinions, different, just many different things related to those RFQ responses. At the end of that, the UDPA will be asked to do two things. One is to certify that they are good responses, and two would be to rank them. Once they're ranked, that's when then this project really hits fast forward. And if the UDPA issues the directive to issue the RFP to those ranked RFQ respondents, this project will really take off, and that's really the point at which we've officially confirmed that we're all in. I know there was a discussion at the county commission meeting, sort of impromptu, a couple of weeks ago, led by Mayor Geller, in which there was some question as to whether or not the county and the city still had interest in pursuing with this project. This is one of those things where I want to brief you as to where we are. It's difficult to discuss strategy in a public meeting because our strategy then just becomes everybody's strategy to know what our strategy is. But going into the June 10th meeting, I think it's fair for us to know that we're either full speed ahead with this project and can go into the county saying that based upon the data points that we have at this point, or not, if for whatever reason we think that there's a course correction that needs to happen. The numbers have gotten a lot more specific since the first numbers that were put out by the consultant. The numbers have become more true. The cost of the project has become more true to our benefit. So the numbers have come down fairly significantly. And Susan and her group have spent a lot of time analyzing that and getting into the nitty gritty. So I'm going to let her go through some of her talking points just to give you an update, a briefing as to where we think we are with the project right now. And then maybe we can talk about what our plan is on June 10th, or we can decide that we just want to think about it and the plan on June 10th can play out in real time on June 10th. So if I could hand it over to Susan, she's just going to bring you collectively up to speed so that we all walk into the June 10th meeting with the same baseline.
Okay, thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, Mayor and Commission. I'm Susan Grant, Finance Director. As Chris said, the RFQ had been issued, 5 responses were received, and we're expecting today that the county is going to provide all of you with the matrices that summarize the qualifications for each of those proposers. At the UDPA meeting on June 10th, as Chris said, one of the requirements is to qualify the team, and we've reviewed those and have determined all of them are qualified. But again, there needs to be formal action on that. And then determining the number of proposals that we want on the short list. If you remember, we talked about ideally it would be 3 to 4, but again, that will be at the pleasure of both commissions. One thing we anticipated doing at the June 10th meeting meeting was authorizing the issuance of the actual RFP. That is not ready at this time, so that will be at a future UDPA meeting, and that's a time or date to be determined. As Chris has said, the pencils have been sharpened and some value engineering has happened. Initially, the costs that we were looking at for the office tower and garage were $847 million. Those numbers have been reduced to $625 million. The city share remains at that 43%. So about $270 million is the city's share. That would be about $38 million for the garage and $231 million for the tower. The estimated annual availability payments, and that would be kind of the rent payments, less about $1.5 million that we're paying currently in rent before we consolidate some of those operations, is about $15.7 million. The portion of that applies to the general fund, because it's not just the general fund that would be occupying the building. There would be TAM, there would be water and sewer in there as well. So the portion that would be attributable to the general fund right now, we're estimating at about $9.5 million.
Now, what does that mean, attributable to the general fund? I mean, the impact per year that we would be that cost?
The total cost to the city as a whole would be $15.7 million. Out of that, 9.5 would be charged to the general fund, and the remainder is charged to, example, water and sewer, because utility billing would be in there. Would get charged to the parking fund, because TAM would be located in this facility as well. So the total cost is allocated among a bunch of funds, but 60%, the lion's share, is in the general fund. And that's all I have right now. I'm here with any questions you might have.
Susan, is there any way to do an apples to apples comparison of costs in the new facility versus currently?
So right now, we know that the rent that we wouldn't pay on various buildings is $1.5 million. We have not gotten to the point yet where we're saying how much water or other operating and maintenance costs. We're in the process of compiling that, but have not yet. So yes, there is a way.
Okay. So $1.5 million is the answer to the question, is how much we are paying for outside space?
For rent, correct. And I netted that out of those numbers that I had given you.
So to answer Commissioner Sorensen's question, comparing apples to apples, is there a savings? Is there no net change, or is there an increase in cost by consolidating the offices in a single building?
So it's
a lot of variables there.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables there. As I said, that we lose $1.5 million in rent.
We lose $1.5 million in costs.
In costs, but keeping in mind, there's some of those buildings where we're moving folks into a single location where we're not paying any rent at all because we own the building. But again, if they had to pay for outside lease space, there would be a cost associated with that.
But has that determination been made, that calculation?
We know what the actual rent is, but not the rent that we're not paying on buildings that we own, and kind of putting a dollar value to that, but we can.
Well, the thing is, let's take, for example, transportation and mobility, okay? Transportation and mobility, the space that they are occupying has a certain rental value, right? So we can come up with a rental value. But at the same time, there's an opportunity cost that we can benefit from because it's sitting on a piece of real estate that's extremely valuable, that far exceeds whatever we would be charging that department for rent. Excuse me. So I know I'm sure there is an algebraic equation that could assist us in trying to figure out how much we'd be gaining by selling that property and by eliminating the cost of what the rent would be versus how much now more we're going to be paying for a new building to allow that department to be occupied in a central location.
Yes.
So we're not there yet then. We haven't-
Not there yet, but we can move in that
But
direction.
is that a fair question?
building. It's absolutely a fair question because that would be with this building too.
It's this building
And
too.
when Bertha and I talked, the joint complex puts two very valuable properties in the downtown back into play, their current location and our current location. So yeah, there are values that calculate there that we're just, it's hard to put a specific dollar value to it because yes, this property is very marketable. Yes, this building is very expensive to maintain based upon its age. When you build a new facility and you put things back under warranty and you become more efficient with current systems, there's values gained there too. So that's when I made the reference to a lot of variables. There are just truly a lot of variables that go into figuring that out.
Yeah, but to the mayor's point, I don't think the sale is important here. I think that rent that we're not paying being calculated and put in this equation lets us know the answer to the question that you're asking. Because once we get that one-time sale, that's over. But you got to look at how long of a term we're going to have in this new facility and what we would have been paying in transportation, mobility, and bringing all these departments together. We'll know if it's an apple and an apple or apple and orange.
You're right. I agree.
Yeah, so
But
I think that's what we're trying to figure out.
to some extent, though, the sale of the property can reduce the capital.
Oh, yeah, I get that part. Yeah. I'm just saying for this calculation, like I think I asked you the other day, I know we're getting the 9.4 we have to pay. But then if we knew what we were paying now, we can see if it's a
Right.
good decision.
John, did you have something you wanted to add?
He
Yes,
looks
Mayor, thank you.
perplexed.
So we used to have a report, and I'm going to look over to Laura. So the A87 cost report that we used to have, and I don't know if you're still getting that done, actually calculates the facility use cost across the board for all departments. And again, I don't know if we're still getting something of that nature. So A87 I know has changed. It's now the super circular report. So I don't know if you, Laura, have something though that is equivocal to that, equivalent.
What happened to their microphones in that center?
Because of the new video systems in the room, we've elected it for the short term to do most of this presentation from staff from the podium.
We need to
Oh,
have
okay.
cameras here.
My first time, okay.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commission. So John, the A87 includes depreciation cost. It doesn't include rental costs.
Speak into your microphone, John.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking as a starting point, that should give us a rough equivalent of what the value of the property would be on an annualized basis. And that gets charged across to general fund and all the other ones. So at least I think towards getting to what the mayor is looking for, it gives us a basis for at least a floor on what that value cost would be, because that's what they're allowing us to charge back to the federal government as a facilities use charge.
So we do maintenance, and which is the cost of public or Parks and Rec maintaining the buildings, and then
Right.
we have a second cost that is depreciation of each
Is it
asset.
depreciation though, or because I thought they went back to the assessed value of the properties when they did that. I
think it's
our
both.
insurance value of the property. They took our insured values of the properties, which should be roughly comparable to replacement value, and they
Right.
build the cost based on that. I mean, I think it's worth exploring, but I
Yes,
think we might be
so
able
we
to answer that
have
question.
one in the A87, but it's not a rental value.
And we could probably get some from Colliers or some of the real estate consultants. I mean, we know how many square feet we have, and certainly we can look at that. So we will.
right.
Susan, does the 15.7 million include operate, maintenance, and operation?
Yes.
Which figure did
That's-
you use, Ben?
Big. 15.7 million includes operation and maintenance of the new facility.
Okay. And
Of that 15, just so we're all clear, of that 15, sorry, 9.5 hits the general fund.
Correct.
So, okay, so
If we can get that from the buildings currently, I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
It's just operationally maintenance.
that's reduced the operation.
Right.
Okay. So, And have you calculated what the usable square footage of the space is intended to be?
So the city share, so the way the costs had gone down, there were two things. We talked about value engineering. We eliminated the vacant floors that were on there. In addition, that they, as I said, sharpened their pencil. So the square footage now is 800 for the total building, 811,000. The city share of 43% is 348,000. Of that, dedicated space is 253,000, and the remainder, about 100,000, is common areas. So lobby, meeting rooms, cafeteria, those central services type things. So 253,000 dedicated square feet for the city employees that are there, and then the remainder being common area.
So 250 and then another 100?
Correct.
Of which we share with the county on a 53-47 breakdown?
Correct.
57-43, I'm sorry, 57-43. So, and we're at 250 something, you said?
Dedicated space, correct. 348 all in, in total.
So do some quick math for me. How much per square foot?
Actually, I have that here. $664 per square foot.
$664?
Correct. That's on the tower. That excludes the cost of the parking garage.
Which to me still seems to be a very conservative number. When you look at what the costs of construction of our current police facility is, 660 is a big, that's got to be a conservative cost per square foot number.
What's the cost per square foot for the police department?
333.
So it's double.
But I think the difference is,
but you're building a high rise versus a 3-story building too. And so that comes at extra cost.
but also, right. But also, does the cost for the police station include maintenance and operation?
No, that's just a construction cost. So
Exactly. So there's a difference.
it would be a cost plus some. I don't
Right.
know that it's a cost double, but a cost plus.
Well, okay. So the reason why this is important is because, how do we justify spending this kind of money on a structure like this when we're building a police department at half the price? And I'm trying to get there.
But it's not half the price though, Mayor.
What's that?
It's not half the price just because of the police station doesn't include maintenance and operation.
Okay. So at some point we need to
Let's
know
get that. Yeah,
that
I agree. Get
differential
that
is.
analysis. Yeah.
You're right. We're getting closer. I just want to make sure that we're getting the best value for the taxpayers, and as we all are. Because when we go into this meeting, we want to be able to say, okay, everything's out front. Are these numbers real? Are we getting into this relationship? This building is going to be there for 100 years, hopefully, and we have to make sure that getting into this, we're building a sound building, one that's going to satisfy the needs of this city as it grows, and that because the county has a different philosophy than we do. The county is looking to decentralize its operations. So as we're looking to centralize our operations, so as we continue to centralize, are we leaving enough room for expansion as the city continues to grow? And because the county will just continue to, throw off its operations in different cities that it has. And so they're looking at it from a different model. And the reason why this is important, because, if we vacate this building and we decide to join the county, then that will impact other decisions that we're going to have with regard to the use of other real estate that's in and around this area. If we decide not to continue with the county, then some of the real estate that we have in and around this area might be used for our own building. So we have to really make a decision that we can't go back on, and once we make that decision, then we're going to be committed to moving forward. So this is the Rubicon that we're going to have to cross, and that between now and June 10th is the time in which we have to talk to our folks and we can't talk amongst ourselves, obviously, but we can today. And do you all feel comfortable about going forward? That's the question.
I feel comfortable moving forward. What I don't feel comfortable with is the rumblings I'm hearing from the leadership over there about killing this whole project that we started out. And we had overwhelmingly support from both commissions to move forward. And now a incident with a person with a mask and not having authority, to me, doesn't, it's not a deal breaker to me. So, but
I agree with you. Yeah.
and then I heard you once say that in one of our meetings that, maybe we shouldn't do this. So because we had a consensus to move forward, I still want to stay on that path. I know we have to look at the numbers and what have you, but I think we knew it was going to be very expensive from the onset. That's why we're looking at this P3, where we don't pay to build it, but we got to pay to stay there for the long run. But what I would like for you to give me a little clarity on, you said the county wants to decentralize. Can you explain that to me a little more?
Yeah, sure. The county has informed me that they're looking to find a new location for their property appraiser's office in another city. They're looking to move out the supervisor of elections to another city. I think Lauderdale, if I'm not mistaken. And they still have their back operations, most of it, over in Plantation, which they're going to continue to expand. So, the way I look at it is there's policy and there's business. Okay,
right.
This is business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one has nothing to do with the other. If we disagree with the county, that's policy. Should have nothing to do. This is business.
Right.
We have to keep that separate.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure I'm clear
you
on
are
what
saying
we're.
the same.
Okay.
So I agree with you 100%. If it's like if we're in a condominium, basically, and
No, don't do that. Steve gets upset.
yeah. He has a little experience in it, so giving him agita just to hear it. But we're not at 43, 57% vote. We're at 50-50. So
right.
At some point, we'll have to come up with a dispute resolution mechanism when it comes to operation of the building. But at the same time, that should have nothing to do with policy. Yeah, we didn't agree with the county on a lot of things when it came to COVID management, and obviously we were right. and a lot of the county commissioners came up to us and said that. So, but anyway, no, we worked well eventually. Once we had discussions with one another, I think we're always able to work things out together. I think we had a good I think we tested our relationship with the county, whereas before we never had this challenge. And in the end, I think it really worked out well. And I appreciate all the work that the county did to assist us in getting things done. I mean, we worked with the county on getting the boat show open, which was great. We worked with the county on getting the Brazilian festival open, and now they want to come here. They want to permanently put their event here. So the county's been very, very helpful in so many different ways. So we thank them for that. Any other questions regarding this going forward into our next meeting?
Not so much questions. I just wanted to touch on some of the points that you've made. I would just want us to remember that what have we been working now together for 2 years? Is this been 2 years we've been working
Just
on
before COVID, yeah.
Okay, so 2 years of work, county and city. I'm sure the expense is not minimal that we have put into this for 2 years. We've also had other folks incur expenses that have made proposals to us. So I think we need to be also considerate of all of that time and expense to get us to this point. From what I read at the county discussion, it just seemed childish to me to talk about, oh my God, we didn't agree on something, so maybe we shouldn't go forward, like you said, with business. I mean, who's going to ever agree every step of the way with someone all of the time? So of course you're going to have those disagreements.
No, you and I agree all the time.
There you go. So I just, I find what I read from the discussion at the county, again, it just seemed childish to me. It did not seem germane to what we're trying to accomplish here in terms of efficiencies for the county and the city. And as I said, for 2 years now, there's been considerable expense and time on both parts of the county and the city and the folks that have put together those proposals for us to review and study. So, we've gone this far down. I would say, though, that if anyone's having serious consideration, they better speak up really quickly, because I don't think that we can continue to move down this path together and then all of a sudden down the road say, nah, we're not going to do this. So I think that, my mother used to have this expression for me. I can't repeat it now because I think this is on television, but it's time to, get off the pot. So, I just think that we have to definitely, move forward.
Okay.
I agree. And I think the reason why I brought it up is so that I could get our pulse and make sure we're still on the same track, since we can't talk. So, and we're going into this meeting in a week or so. And just want to make sure we were still right where we wanted to be. And I gathered that from this meeting. So I'm comfortable with it, but I just didn't like, the grandstanding that I heard from over there about, this little policy deal.
I think it was really based on the numbers we were seeing, and I think right now, as we see the numbers becoming more refined, I think the folks over there were having as much sticker shock as we were. So as they,
I think he was talking about the authority of our officers of refusal not to remove someone from the chambers. What he got upset about.
Well,
so which, in my opinion, if we weren't there policing it, it would be BSO, and he doesn't have authority over them either.
Right.
So it's a moot point if you really dig into the weeds. So I wanted us to be prepared for those arguments, because he didn't have any authority over policing, whether it's county or city. He does not have that. You do.
Right. You hear that?
No, but that's his argument.
I know. All righty.
Mayor, I agree with everything that's been said, and I think we should continue moving forward. And I think critical is just to continue to set a very aggressive meeting schedule where we're saying, okay, what are we talking about next? When are we meeting? We just got to really try to keep moving. So I think we're going to be the more nimble ones in this process.
So I think COVID kind of really put a damper on it. You're right. Let's start a series of regular meetings, even if it's monthly.
Exactly.
So we can move more aggressively in making this happen, because I'd like to see it before I retire and before any of you retire. So but anyway, okay. Any other questions? Thank you so much. It was really great. Thank you for your input. And so we have a consensus now to continue to move forward on this project. You have anything else, Susan, you want to add?
No, I'm up next for the next one. So I'm just.
Oh, okay. Business 2, presentation of proposed ordinance amending Division 3 rate and charges of Chapter 28 water, wastewater, stormwater, and advanced metering infrastructure. Overview.
Okay, and while they help me get the presentation up, I'll just let you know that the Finance Department does oversee the utility billing operation. And over the past year and a half, I've noted a few areas of improvement in that, given that we had, there it is, thank you, goals of number 1, simplifying the process both for our staff and our neighbors, and number 2, to be able to provide more meaningful credits. So with that, let's see here, which one, this one? Which one down? Or can I just hit this? Okay. And is this, okay, good. So we did some research, reviewed a lot of documents, the city code, bond covenants, the KPMG report, our website, and neighbor correspondence that we received. We looked at other cities to see what they were doing and interviewed city staff. You can see here is a list of 20 different municipalities that we talked to about what their processes were. And given that, I'm just going to summarize what we are proposing versus what we have currently. And so currently there are 12 separate sections. We're proposing 7. Currently, there's a requirement for a notarized affidavit. We are proposing a standardized application. What documentation residents or neighbors have to provide remains unchanged. A plumber's invoice of some sort to let us know that there was a leak or there was not a leak.
Currently, the ordinance refers to large volume, but doesn't really define it. We've defined it here to help everyone understand what large volume is 2 times someone's average usage. Currently, there is no reference to how many months you can get a credit for, but the current practice has been 1 month for an unexplained usage. We're clarifying that it would be up to 2 months, and that allows neighbors time to actually identify an issue and correct it during a 2-month time frame. The biggest difference, and we talked about more meaningful credits, is currently the credit is based on someone's average tier. So that means for wastewater, as an example, the lowest tier is 0 to 3,000 gallons, and anything over above that is the highest tier. So an average usage of 5,000 gallons a month, a person would get no credit for wastewater under the current provisions. This would give credit based on the lowest tier, and we actually saw that in many of the comparison cities that we looked at. Finally, there was no time frame to claim currently, but we wanted to put a little bit more structure around it and said that, hey, claim within 60 days. And currently, what we're saying is the leak would be 1 credit per year, unexplained, 1 credit per life of account. That's what we're proposing. Here is just an example. So you can see if someone's average usage is 5,000 gallons and they have 2 months, one with 40,000 and one with 20,000. The 2-month bill would be $1,200. And we can show you here what currently the credit would be and what it would be under the proposed ordinance. You could see that under the proposed, it's the same throughout. So what we tried to do was standardize that. It's very easy to explain to someone how much of a credit they would get. We would put a credit calculator on our website, and it would be the same no matter what the situation. So in the case of unexplained or a sewer impacted leak, such as a toilet, you could see the amount goes from $219 or $259 to almost $700 on that $1,200 bill. If there is a leak that doesn't impact, like a washer hose or irrigation leak, the amount is a little less, but again, still a very good amount, and we make it up on those other 2. So here to answer any questions or get any feedback prior to us bringing this back for a first reading.
Any questions? I have a couple questions. Let me ask you this. A lot of these spiked bills, materialize from time to time. I know that I have been a victim of that too. What happens if the city never collected the extra spike? How much would that ruin our water system, or is it just such a negligible amount that collecting it would really have no impact on the city's fund?
Well, and there's some bond covenants that are impacted by that. So we looked at just a typical month and the amount of credits that we were giving in a month. I think it was several months ago that we did it, was about $20,000. So if they double, that might be $40,000. So in the big scheme of things, probably, you're saying to credit the entire amount. We have bond covenants that say we can't give away water for free.
Well, we're not. I'm not saying giving away water, because I'm still dubious over whether or not these spikes are a reflection of extra water use or a defect in the meter.
And so to get the unexplained credit, a meter test is always required. And they typically come out accurate. Yeah.
You say that.
That's what they tell us after
right, so we do that. We're getting new meters. How long is it going to take for those new meters to be citywide?
So when we finish this presentation, folks from Public Works, Glenn, are going to be going over the AMI project, and they'll give you all that information.
Okay. Because it's just a terrible thing when your water bill, it's not really just your water bill, but your utility bill is like $150 a month, and then all of a sudden it's $1,800 a month. Yeah. And that assumes the consumption of water that would fill 3 swimming pools. Okay, and that's a lot of water to somehow hide. Okay, you can't hide that kind of water. So, all right. Any questions? Sorry, Susan, I just
no worries. No.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you very much.
you.
And we'll move it over to Glenn.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you. Business 3, Uptown South Master Plan.
Before you move on, Mayor, can we give you just a quick update on the AMI project? That was the other half of this
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
topic. That
Just
way,
say that. I didn't. Okay. I didn't know she was presenting that.
we will give you, it's just a very brief update, and then we'll move on to business 3.
Now, before they go into that, do we want to do that now since the district commissioner is not here? By the way, Vice Mayor Moritas could not attend today's meeting because of a family emergency.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'll be able to participate tonight. If anyone's wondering why she's not here on the dais, it's because of that reason. But because she's not here, is it a disservice to her to take up business 3? I just feel that.
To take up business 3, when I talked to her on the phone, she didn't have any issue with us taking up business 3 without her here.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. All right.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Glenn Hadwin, the Sustainability Manager, the Public Works Department. Let me actually start out by saying that some of the questions you asked about things like getting us unexpected bill can be addressed by AMI, and that's one of the problems it will resolve. You can get real-time alerts if you see an unusual usage pattern. So hopefully this would reduce the amount of times those kind of events occur, because there's much more data coming in, and we would know much sooner when a leak occurs. So having said that, I'm here to give you a brief update on the city's progress towards an advanced metering or AMI solution for our water meters. AMI refers to the system of smart water meters, network communications, and software that allows real-time two-way communication with meters. My next slide is not coming up.
Are we still in the testing process? I thought we already approved the project.
Well, my next slide would have showed you where that is, but while it's coming up, let me say this. We are planning to start a pilot project in July of this year to evaluate AMI systems from 6 providers over a period of 6 months. The evaluation will be focused on the meters, the network systems, and the software associated with each of those. The total cost of these 6 pilots is approximately $55,000 and will include 113 meters distributed across the city.
And we didn't already address this at a previous meeting like a year ago, where we authorized the department to go ahead and start.
Glenn, so why don't you, I think what the question the mayor's asking is, we've always talked about this in the context of an ESCO project, and that was something that in the competitive solicitation process, we had an issue with sales tax and who was going to pay what, and I'm high summarizing it, but this is now a pay-as-we-go implementation.
Exactly. Previously, we had tried to fit this into an energy performance contracting model, which is where a vendor provides the service, and there's a substantial fee that accompanies that. And as we reviewed the contract and we're preparing that to bring that forward, there were some issues that came up, and it was decided to go another route, which is where we will directly procure these without the need of the energy services company. And that is actually a substantial cost savings from what we're looking at now. So this is the slide I think I just walked you through. We're looking at starting the pilot in the next month, and then continuing for 6 months, looking at meters, software, and communications technology. We're looking at 6 vendors. And let me see if I can get to my next slide. There we are. All right. Our pilot will include AMI systems from these the 6 providers shown on this slide. They're some of the most qualified and well-established smart meter manufacturers in the world. As we consider looking at a citywide implementation of AMI, there are many pros and cons to consider. Some of the benefits include eliminating the need for manual reads. We currently have a contract of over $500,000 a year for Bermix to manually read each of the 64,000 meters in the city every month. AMI would also allow our neighbors to better manage their bills through automated leak alerts and budgeting tools. You could say, I want to spend $100 a month, and you get a reminder when you approach that amount. It would also provide real-time data to better diagnose unusual usage conditions. And on the next slide, I'll show you an example of that. It can alert staff to illegal or unusual usage conditions, such as tampering with a meter and reverse flow, and then we know to respond to them quickly as we get real-time indication of that. It can improve the meter accuracy. We had previously done a study, citywide meters, that had shown they were on average 94% accurate. The newer meters are guaranteed generally to be over 98% accurate for 10 to 20 years. And this increase in accuracy allows us to reduce our unaccounted lost water. This means that the city would be able to bill for a higher and more accurate amount of the water actually delivered to one residence. The blue bars are water usage. The smaller peaks might be 2, 3, 5 gallons. They might be things like using a sink to wash your hands or flushing a toilet. The large peaks, you see a couple of them to the right, could be something more water intensive, such as taking a shower, using your laundry. And then, so this is a fairly typical one, but if there was a leak, you might see like a constant bars all across there with none of the time slots going down to 0, like we see in this chart. And finally, the implementation. As I said earlier, in July, we are planning on implementing our pilot projects for 6. After that launch, we will spend 6 months collecting data on the meters, on the performance of the networks, and the software, the associated software. Once that's completed in early 2022, we will be reviewing the products, the different systems, and using that to develop specifications for procurement. And then we would use that information to put together an RFP to procure an AMI solution citywide. After completing those processes, we hope to be able to launch citywide installation in the latter half of 2022. And we estimate that the deployment of all 64,000 meters would take 24 months.
And what would be the cost of that?
Well,
if you give me a ballpark number.
The ballpark number we're working with right now is $30 million for the meters, for the installation, for the network, but going through the procurement process, that would give us a better number.
But we'd be saving $500,000 every year because we don't have to pay for meter.
Right, and there's also impacts to revenue because we are decreasing the unbilled water.
We are decreasing the unbilled water.
Decreasing.
So, for example, if your meter's leaking where we can't see it,
right,
this device will capture that. So we're going to give you more water to bill you for.
Right, but we'll know within a day.
Oh, you'll know right away.
You'll know right away.
Right.
So
alert system.
Right. So it actually saves water because the alleged leak is not occurring over a long period of time. You're going to capture it really quickly if you're paying attention, and that way we save water. So let me ask you something. Is this project eligible for any of the infrastructure money that's being contemplated in the new federal law? The new federal, I forget the name of the bill, but you know what I'm talking about, the infrastructure bill. Is something like this a program that we could seek some sort of subsidy or grant trying to help us pay for this?
All these assessments and all the stuff that's surrounding our water. So I'm reluctant.
If we can get the government to help pay for this, then
we are the government. I'm just kidding. No, but I don't know if that money does that.
It does. I know it does. So, and I think there's a state program also that's available out.
That would be good, and I would love to participate. But if we got to pass this on to the consumers, I can't justify going to my residents now saying,
You're
I'm about
right.
to give you another increase.
It's a burden. You're right.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
But we're going to test these, right?
We're in the testing phase.
Okay. I'm okay with the test, but not until we figure out where this infrastructure money is
It's just
coming.
time to apply for these grants
Right.
and see whether or not we can be, because $30 million in the scope of things is not really a lot of money as we're looking at things. And this could really, really help our community. If we could get some money from the state and some money from the federal government, it would buy down the capital cost, and anything that we pass on to the consumer would be a lot less.
We can look for other funding sources. Just for the sake of discussion purposes, I modeled what it would look like. That if we didn't end up with any of those funding sources, I know what it looks like to model it beginning in 2022 within our current rate structure.
Yeah, but when you say that, because you sound so eloquent.
Well, that sounded eloquent.
But I'm still worried about the pass through. So,
it is because the rate
you're going to have to, when you're speaking for me at least, tell me I'm going to pass this on to the consumer. Don't just say I found another funding source and I'm still going to pass it on to the consumer.
Correct. It would not be subsidized from the general fund.
You're saying the same thing.
Yes, I am saying the same thing.
So that means it's being passed on to the consumer.
Yes.
That's what I don't want.
Through the rate.
No, but that shouldn't happen.
Well, but what he's saying is that, what I'm saying is that if we can buy down the capital.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
We're not on the same page because you're the city manager and you're doing your budgets and you're saying, I'll find another pot to get it out of, but I'm going to pass it on, the cost to the consumer. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I found out was that if we want to move forward with it, I need to be able to make a recommendation to you how we pay for it. And that's when we do the revenue estimating. We could back it out of our assumptions, no problem. And then it establishes a different model for setting rates.
But see, you keep saying it. The rate is what the customer pays, right?
Correct. I've said that. Yes.
I don't want to see that tampered with anymore. I think we've passed on enough to them. And help me out. I mean, am I the only?
You're not. Look, we all agree that our ratepayers and our consumers are really being charged a lot of money, and I know especially households that can least afford it are suffering the heaviest burden. But at the same time, do we want this program in our city? I think we all do. So let's see if we can find a way to get there with the least amount of burden on our homeowners. So. Let's go through the pilot program, and then we'll see how it works and if it works. And then, and then by the time we get there, let's hope that we can find other sources of money to try to help us to pay for this. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Now, business 3, Uptown South Master Plan. Who's going to speak to this? Mr. Fajardo?
We'll start with Mr. Fajardo.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commission. Anthony Fajardo again. While this is getting set up, I'll just give you a little bit of an introduction and pass it over to Jim Hetzel, our Principal Planner in Department of Sustainable Development. So the area that we're looking at is to the south of the Uptown Urban Village area. As you might recall, about 2 years ago, we did a master plan for that area and developed some design guidelines as well as some opportunities for changing the zoning district based on incentives for affordable housing. The District Commissioner, Vice Mayor Moritas, asked us to look at the area just to the south of that. That's generally bounded on the west by the new Lockhart Stadium and the east by I-95 and the south by Commercial Boulevard. It's approximately 192 acres. And this presentation is going to go over basically what we found in our initial analysis, what some opportunities and challenges we have for the area as we move forward, and maybe seek some direction from the City Commission on next steps. So I'll turn it over to Jim, and we'll be happy to answer questions afterwards. Thanks.
This does seem a little out of place without the district commissioner being a part of the discussion. Now that I is there any time sensitivity to this, Anthony, or can we move this to the 15th for the benefit of the district commissioner?
Yep.
To be a part of the discussion. I think you all would
Yeah,
want
I
that if we were
agree.
talking about
Yeah, I
something
feel like
in your
we're
district
talking
too. So,
back.
right. And it's certainly not by design, but I think you all would want that too if it was in your district. So
Yes.
if let's go ahead and do that out of deference to the district.
Mr.
commissioner.
Hetzel, do you have any thoughts you want to share with us in general as we dig down into this report?
Jim Hetzel, Principal Urban Planner, DSD. Well, it's good to see everybody, so I'll share that thought. I've seen everybody.
It's good to see you too.
It's an interesting analysis that staff completed. It's kind of get the ball going as far as what we can do or what we should do or should not do for the area. So this basic analysis gives a summary and some recommendations of taking the next step with the consultant to further examine what the Vice Mayor asked us to do, which was look at the land use and zoning in this area and also see what opportunities present itself in conjunction with the soccer stadium.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? All right, so it gives us a little bit more time to digest your report also. It looks quite fascinating to be able to propose this. I mean, it's great what you've done.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on and thank you. And we'll, when is this, June 15th, you said?
Yeah, we'll just move it to the next meeting.
Okay. Business 4, discussion regarding requests by the U.S. Department of Justice to dissolve remaining portion of the 1980 consent decree. Does everyone understand what this is about? You want
So
to
why don't we have
Mayor, Commissioners,
small presentation?
as you are aware, and we have spoken privately, about a year ago or a little bit more, the Department of Justice had reached out to us with an interest in dissolving the remaining portions of a 1980 consent decree that was entered into by the U.S. District Court here in South Florida. If you recall, in 1980, the U.S. government sued the city of Fort Lauderdale, mostly under Title VII, alleging discriminatory practices in the hiring of Blacks and females in both the police department and with firefighters. In 2008, there was a dissolution of the portion that dealt with Black police officers, and then as well as women in both police and fire. So the only remaining portion of the consent decree, which is now 41 years old, deals strictly with Black applicants, both hiring and promotion, with the fire department. Throughout the years, we've cooperated with the DOJ and provided them data as required, and we've made great inroads to the spirit of the consent decree. And to those that don't know what a consent decree is basically after we were sued, rather than proceed through full trial and full merits, full disposition on the merits, both the U.S. government and the city decided to sit down, come up with this consent decree, and move forward under those principles. At this point in time, we have spoken to the DOJ extensively. There are a variety of these that are throughout the country that are considered to be old and not to use a bad term, but stale in a sense, because they're based on data from 1980. So they've shown an interest, and they do want to dissolve these, and this particular one. And typically in these types of consent decrees, it's much better to step before the court jointly, as we have throughout all these years together, rather than to have just the DOJ go on it alone. So they've made this request. I wanted to bring it to you for discussion to see if the commission was inclined to proceed with it. Obviously, the spirit of it is still, very strong, and the city certainly wants to adhere to it. But to the extent that the DOJ at this point finds that this document's a bit dated, I don't know how effective that is, at least through this particular document and through its enforcement. Since the case is long been closed, its effectiveness is decreased over the years. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
And I do know, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say this before you start to deliberate or ask questions, is that having the benefit of individual commission briefings with you all prior to the meeting, I do know that Commissioner McKenzie has several thoughts on this topic. So just before we close the item out, or if you start to talk back and forth amongst yourselves about what to do, I'm not sure where he went. I've just sent him a message to see if I could get him to come back. He does have some very he's got some good points to make in this discussion.
All right, so why don't we, well, first of all, let's go across the table. Ben, do you have anything?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mayor. Alan, as the DOJ was engaging with us, I'm assuming we were participating in getting them information and in them developing their memorandum. Is that right?
Yes. Throughout the year, there were reporting criteria that were set up in the consent decree that we provided in documents, and they've exceeded the fact that we have always cooperated and provided in the data.
Okay. And so and Mayor, I can wait till I feel like maybe here he is. So let's wait. Whoa. Coming out.
We're talking about the consent decree.
Coming out of the bat cave.
Okay.
Get over near that pride flag. Come on.
Definitely.
Right. You like that?
Now, how can I help you?
Exactly.
Ben wants me?
Yeah, I wanted you.
What do you want?
Sound like.
Well, we're talking about the city attorney has put this on the agenda as to whether or not we want to continue to maintain this consent decree.
Oh, decree?
I think Commissioner Sorensen has been talking right now, and I think the idea is ultimately, are these practices already incorporated in our policies and procedures? Do we need the consent decree to continue? So keep going, Commissioner.
Yeah, thanks. My next question was for Chris and especially fire rescue. In terms of recruitment, it's something I've talked with our fire department about, and recruitment and retention and attraction of diverse Black candidates. I think there's still opportunities to be there, and I'd just like to hear more about what are we doing, how are we doing that in that process.
Yeah, so we've looking at our strategy to do that recruitment and what our minimum hiring standards are, and that's the discussion that's ongoing right now. If you all, I'm going to throw this out there just so it becomes part of your discussion. If you all choose to give us direction that we should go ahead and dissolve, be a part of this dissolving of the consent decree, I want you to know that I intend on bringing back a recruitment strategy and plan at our very next meeting that we can hold ourselves accountable to. So this isn't an effort of not wanting to be accountable to doing essentially the right thing, that we have still a distance to go in our fire rescue department. I haven't been here for the 40 years that this consent decree has been around, but it's a shame that it's taken us 40 years and we're having this discussion. And I think that we need to not lose sight of the fact that hiring citywide a workforce that matches the community in which we serve, that enjoys people of all perspectives, is something that an organization like ours benefits from if we do that well. Having said that, I understand the city attorney's point too, that really if it's out there, nobody's really watching it, what good is it anyway? And that's why I'd like to just offer up that if in fact you direct us to do that, I won't feel good until we have a plan adopted by you all that continues the direction that we were given some 40 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think it's also important for us to exceed the DOJ expectations for percent of diverse employees in our fire rescue and PD. So, okay, thanks. That's it for the moment, Mayor.
If I may, Commissioner, just to add one point to that. Yeah. We speak about the DOJ standard. That's a standard back from 1970. If you look at the way the 11.25% was calculated, which was explained in an additional MOU issued thereafter, it's based on 19 census information and based on the average Black students completing a 4-year high school degree. I don't know how that implicates numbers today, but we're talking about 41 years ago. So there's probably a fresher set of numbers we want to work with rather than stay with 11.25, which may be completely irrelevant in this day and age.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, but here's my concern. Are you finished?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I've expressed it with staff. So, and I like how you went back to when it came and made it so dinosauric, if you will. But as I question staff in our meetings, we still haven't met the criteria of the 1970s. So my fear is, here's a document sitting there. If we don't have the right conversations, the tough conversations, and the right measuring stick, we still cannot reach the level that they decreed us under some 40-something years ago today, both police and fire. Now, I know the efforts and the talks that go on, with our union chiefs and police and chiefs and unions, but the numbers are just so alarming to me in today's time that we can't reach these thresholds. So the decree had to have meant something, and I just don't feel comfortable pulling it away until we have a measuring stick of our own to reach these numbers. And I don't know how to get there if we haven't done it ourselves. And we were decreed to do it back then. I think Roosevelt Walters and Congressman Alcee Hastings, I mean, they were very, very instrumental in thinking it was warranted to do this. And I know DOJ is trying to clear their desk of books and saying, it doesn't matter, but it does matter. I mean, maybe that doesn't matter, but it matters. So I'm just not comfortable moving the document as they are requesting. I mean, because what happens if we don't respond to them?
They do have, we did pose that question directly. They do have the authority to seek the dissolution on their own, which they don't like to do. That's not something that they necessarily like to do. They've had to do it in some jurisdictions. But you always, in these types of situations, want to come to the table together. But they do have the jurisdiction to do that.
Yeah, they want us to do the dirty work.
Well, it's actually a joinder. It's not.
But when I look, even every room I walk into this city, I look and I just see the disparity when I don't see these numbers being met. I don't care what room I walk into. You can look at the days. I mean, it's just one. Look at the room. There's about 3 or 4. But yet you could say you weren't here for the 41 years, but you've been here for a number of years.
Absolutely.
And the numbers that I see today reflect all of us. I know I've been here about 7 years now, so it reflects me too, but I talk about it all the time. This is why I go deep into the weeds when we talk about 10% in procurement, and how can we get it there? We'll never get it there if we just don't. We have to think outside the box. We have to do things differently because they're obviously broken. I sat there and hammered with the chief, the police chief, the other day about the numbers, and their process is so subjective that you'll never get there. And when we have the authority, we have the tools, and I think we could do it if we really wanted to do it. I had a consultant tell me in DC one time that, do you want the truth or do you want the numbers? And I'm kind of like the Vice Mayor, and I want the truth. And he says, well, think about this. White people hire white people. Hispanic people hire Hispanic people. And then when you ask the African American, the black person, who's the best one for the job, who would you hire? They say they want the best person for the job. This is a consultant that many cities have paid good money to get an answer. But when he asked me if I wanted the truth, I said yes. And he goes, so when you can put people in the room that look like the people you're trying to hire, they could make those decisions probably more often than those who have been making those decisions over the years, as you two have alluded to, and the police department. We just got to do it differently. Until we're willing to do that, I mean, this document is the only blanket I have.
So Commissioner, a thought there. So I think that all makes sense. Maybe one option is us asking Chris to sharpen his pencil and put together a plan for how are we going to move and exceed beyond this and keep this in place until such time that we like it. We like what he's saying. We like where he's heading, and we're comfortable.
And I agree. You alluded to something earlier on. You said you've been talking to the fire. You've been, you guys.
Yeah.
But that's you talking. But
Sure.
until we can sense it and give him the power, I think in his heart and in his mind he wants to do it. But it wasn't until we were sitting in the meeting the other day when we got the resistance from the police in their processes, and their process is kind of different than most, because they have a person inside that's really doing their HR piece, not so much our HR department. Am I correct in what I'm saying?
They've got a process, yeah. That does include board.
That can handcuff him, no pun intended, and really trying to get to his goal. But and I don't know how you do it. And they had two last year, 2 black hires, and I think 0 the year before that. And this is under the new chief we had back then, and then two more chiefs removed. But I know.
Did we have more hires under Chief Adderley?
Yeah, and Roberts.
Is that right? How about in the fire department, Chief Kerr? Have we had more women since are you hiring all the women now?
Hey.
Well, it says race and women, so I'm just trying to balance out.
Actually, just for clarification,
specifically went to black and women.
Right.
But today's Mayor,
there's only one portion
just clarification
left.
Though, right?
What's it?
Just a clarification.
Left.
Right. It's the only thing we're dealing with today is black and firefighters.
Right.
Women have been that portion has been dissolved, and the police department has been dissolved completely. It's just firefighting and black employees.
Right.
Firefighters,
The fire department.
So what's going on in your department, Chief?
Well, so first of all, we are just getting really ready to hire our next class, which will be coming shortly, and there'll be 25 individuals in that class. And I believe that there are 6 women that will be that are eligible to be hired in this next group. Historically, I can tell you that in the 2 previous departments that I've been in, we have hired more women and we've promoted more women when there's a woman in charge.
How about African American?
So that speaks to the consultant telling me that how people do things, right? So because of your presence at the top, you're more cognizant of it. What?
I think it's more that we're visible and women see that there is an opportunity and it's something that they can be. It's like you said, if you don't see what you can be,
right,
then you can't get there. So, and I think in regard to recruiting, it's really important that they don't see the chief at the top, but that they see people that look like them, and that those are the part of the people that are out there doing your recruiting.
So I have a question, Chief. Have we made progress since 1980?
Yes, we have. And actually, I was hired as part of that consent decree in 1983.
Okay, so that's my issue.
But this is 1980.
This is 1980, this decree. And I think that if we say, no, we don't want to dissolve it mutually, then we're saying we haven't made any progress since 1980. Now, have we made all the progress we can make? Absolutely not. But I don't think we need to tie it to a document, as Alan said, is stale. It's 1980, 41 years ago. And if you're telling me correctly, we have made progress in this field since 1980. To me, I'm focusing on the last paragraph of the CAM. The city manager commits to continuing diversity recruitment efforts. If we agree to support this joint motion to dissolve the consent decree, it is our intent to bring forward a recruitment plan and strategy that will continue to fulfill the spirit of the consent decree, where we voluntarily hold ourselves accountable to the highest of recruitment standards. If I can have assurance that we're doing that, I'm okay. And I'm okay with doing this regarding the mutual consent of both the DOJ and the city to say that this document can go away now. But making it really clear that we agree that it can go away, but not because we've reached our goals.
Right.
And that's all. We have to be very clear on that. But this is a stale document that the DOJ has asked us to, agree with them that for the most part, we have fulfilled a lot of it, but we still have a little way to go.
And if I may just add that at no point did the DOJ say that this doesn't matter or the contents don't matter. It's just they have found us over the years to be in substantial compliance. And yes, the age of the document plays into it because we are dealing with old numbers. We are dealing with old information. But at no point has the DOJ represented that it doesn't matter or this isn't an issue.
Right. But I want us to make that point that it does matter and that if we do agree to say, okay, yes, we're willing to, lift this consent decree from 41 years ago. I just want to make that point that, we still have work to do and we are going to do that work.
But I like where you read the part about the city manager doing this. And here's where I'm struggling. All right. I'm on my second city manager. All right. She was hired under the old city manager. When you give city managers that kind of leeway and authority, and they pick a Chief Kerr, they pick a Chief Adderley, they pick a Chief Maglione, we pick other chiefs in between, and the numbers go up and down depending on who's sitting there that can pick the right person over there that will keep an eye on the target, if you will, that we can't necessarily control from here because we're the policymakers, but this decree was the only blanket we had back then. But I think Chief Kerr was the answer then. I think we've fallen short in police. When your numbers start trickling downward from where we came, and we were getting testimony from the podium that we had to tweak the old recruiting process, and that's how we filled all those slots once we Can-Do Commission got here. We filled the slots, but the slots were filled with same old patterns, same old behavior. They filled them, but we lost in those categories that matter the most to us. So as I dug into it, I'm just still concerned that if we're not looking and paying attention to the details that matter the most to us, it's human resources that are making these decisions behind closed doors without our input. I've had long dialogue with Mr. Bain. I would love to hear what he's thinking. I mean, he's right there with the pulse of the union, and they negotiate very well what they want when they come to the table, both police and fire. But how do we get there? I mean, how do you feel about this document?
All right, so
Can he come up and speak real quick?
I'm sorry?
Scott Bain. Can you hear me?
Scott, do you want to come up and comment on this?
Yeah, because
Come on up. While you're coming up, I just want to say a couple things.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure why this hasn't been part of our policies and procedures anyway. I know it's been a practice, but it would seem to me that if we're looking to eliminate this consent decree, that the very least we could do is incorporate it in our policies and procedures. Because I agree with Commissioner McKenzie in that unless you have something watching over us, it's easy to slip back into old ways and to ignore the necessities that are being defined in this consent decree. And while we may have made progress, I still think that there should be a standard that we need to follow. And I think that's defined in the consent decree, which not only talks about wanting to hire more people, but if you read in the details, it talks about how to go about doing that. But I know we do some of this stuff. We go out to city events. We go out to neighborhood events. We publicize the opportunities to become a member of our fire or police departments. But something tells me that we need to have something in writing so that we know that this is the policy of the city. Until we have that, it is subjective, and we could easily fall back into ways that are inconsistent with what the spirit and the letter of this consent decree are all about. That's just my feeling. Scott.
Scott Payne, IFF Local 765. So I've been working with the fire chief and discussing different ways that we can do better recruiting with inside. If you talk to the other agencies throughout the county or tri-county area, everybody's in a very similar problem as far as trying to recruit and match the demographics of the community. That's something that is a policy decision you all can make, and you can actually put your own policy in place saying this is what we're going to do. This is how the city is going to operate. Whether you operate under the DOG or not, you guys can make DOJ, you guys can make that decision and actually put that in place moving forward. So if you want to get rid of it, that is an option. But the recruiting, how to do the recruiting is the challenge. And we look at the fire academies around throughout the county. We have 3 different fire academies here in Broward County that if you look at demographics just within the academies, it's probably conducive to how we're hiring now. We looked at the applicants that we just recently that came in, looked at demographics all through that, and saying we do have restrictions of how we do our hiring process as to the scoring process and where they rank. And then we hire off of that through the ranking. So we're in support of matching the demographics of the community. We want to see that done because it only makes us better out there within the community. So, but it is a challenge that we're facing all throughout the county. The city has not gotten to the standard. When you look at the standard, I believe it's 11.41, I believe was the number on the consent decree. We're not currently there. And I don't know how we're going to get there in any short time period, but 40 years has been the challenge that should have done this in. So the city needs to take a policy of how we're going to get there. But I think if you want to eliminate this, you have the ability to set your own policy within the city of Fort Lauderdale, how we're going to do that. But that's going to change your hiring standards, how you do it. Why it's very different between police and fire is because for a police officer to go to go to the police academy, we hire them and then send them through the police academy for majority of the members. For fire academy, every person who becomes a firefighter puts themselves through school, through fire, EMT, and paramedic, and then we hire them already certified, fully ready to go. That's the difference that you have between police and fire.
Mm-hmm. So this new program that Andy Mitchell and those are rolling out, that's going to help you all financially pay for some of the costs, because even you and I have sponsored some of these applicants, if you will, in the past, because we recognized the downfall or the shortfall there. So I don't know if you all are familiar with what Mr. Mitchell is doing. I'm sure he talked to all of you, right?
No, I'm not.
Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, so Mr. Mitchell came forth and through the Broward Sheriff's Auxiliary, I believe it is the group. They're looking to raise some money to help reach out into the schools and do scholarship programs to fully pay for students to go to fire academy, EMT, and paramedic school to fund that program for them 100% for it as they go on. We're working right now with some of the fire department administrative staff, the union, some other people within the community that we're bringing in Commissioner McKenzie's office to actually bring and look at the process, how we're going to have that set up. Mm-hmm. Fort Lauderdale High School has a program that is a program that reaches out and
it's an amazing program, but then Dillard doesn't have it, and you're trying to recruit that demographic, and they don't have a tool to even inspire or uplift a kid to want to be a fireman or a policeman, a firefighter, or a police officer. I got to get correct here, Chief Kerr. I see you over there. But this is a start, and they're going to put their money where the miles are. And they were calling on me because of the targeted demographics. So they're probably at a Dillard, if you will. But if you say, why not Fort Lauderdale? But guess what? They've had it, and it's amazing. So we want to figure it out and try to now pay for this cost that typically eliminates more minorities than others, but a lot of people get eliminated right there with that upfront cost.
Another program that we looked at also was looking within our employees within the city who may be interested in coming over into fire and maybe doing a kind of a program through that might help recruit already we know they're good employees that might be interested in the fire side and bring them over into getting them through school, through that process, that would be a good candidate to come.
How
Awesome.
come we don't hire them like that, like police does? What's the I mean, I don't know the dynamics. I'm a policymaker.
Right. That's how it's done. Back in the day, there was a non-certified portion that they did previously. We haven't done that for, at least I've been on for 21 years. Since I've been here, we have not hired non-certified.
So my question is, why can't we do it? Is it, again, the elephant in the room we all keep talking about? If there's a woman chief or
I think we can do it.
And can you hire on a
We got a can-do
probationary
commission,
basis?
right?
Saying you got to pass to.
That's what I'm asking.
You got to pass to be fully employed.
Huh?
So I think we can do anything is possible, and I think we have to just make sure that we make some assertive efforts, but we need the policy, right, that will guide us. And we have been having discussions. I've been having discussions with Tarlisha and Human Resources, and like Scott said, we've been having internal discussions about how we can improve the diversity of the app. First, we have to improve the diversity of the applicant pool. Right? I mean, when the applicant pool doesn't have enough diversity in it, then what you hire, the numbers that you're hiring are not enough. And then you have to hire enough people to account for those people that you're, like the blacks that you're trying to hire. You're not losing more than you're hiring, right? As they're retiring and they're turning over,
Right.
then we're not hiring enough either. So there's a number of, things that we can look at. There's internship programs, like Scott mentioned. There's maybe looking and recruiting folks that currently work for the city and putting them through the academy. We have some things, both the city manager and I have also discussed about how we can improve the diversity of the organization. So that is, one of my number one goals, and it always has been. So that's where we are, and that's where we're trying to improve the black candidates as well as women candidates. But for the first time in the 109-year history of Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue, there is a woman in every single rank in Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue. The first time in 109 years.
Awesome. That's great.
Thank you.
So it worked.
Chief,
Well, I think it goes a little bit beyond just depending upon the eligible pool of applicants and successful graduates from the fire academy. Is there something like an ROTC for firefighters at the high school level where we actually make it cool to be a firefighter I want to grow up to be a fireman or a firefighter, so that you're creating the pool as opposed to waiting for the pool to come to you.
Yeah, so I think that's what Commissioner McKenzie was referring to. There is a fire academy program that takes place in the high school, and I think Commissioner McKenzie was saying he wants to expand that to like Dillard High School. It's currently at Fort Lauderdale High, and I don't know where else it is.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, at Stranahan.
Stranahan, yeah.
And And they are programs where the candidates go through as part of their high school education, and when they graduate, then they're partway there to their certifications as firefighters and as EMTs. So we do have one of the women that works for us was one of our explorers, and then she was part of that program, and now she's one of our stellar, just recently promoted to driver engineer. So, we do have programs like that. I think, like Commissioner McKenzie said, maybe we need to try to expand those, and that should help expand the pool.
And then we do a camp every summer, which was initiated by them.
That's
I've been
correct.
doing it for 7 years now.
That's
It's a
correct.
full 2 weeks, the whole shebang. They target the demographics we're looking at, and it's an amazing camp. And I enjoy it every year, and I encourage you all to go out and spend some time over there. But it's amazing.
That starts at the middle school level.
Yeah,
Right, and that's just making sure, again, like Mayor, you said, it's exposing and exposure and people seeing that there are people that look like them, whether it's a little girl or it's a little boy, it's a black child, it's a Hispanic child. It's somebody sees something that they can be, and that's part of what that camp is about, is exposing them to what it could be like to have a career as a firefighter.
And Chief,
Getting back to this,
Let me see if Commissioner Sorensen has, I do have a couple things I'd like to weigh in on, but I've been just waiting till maybe towards the end. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, I just had a couple questions for Chief. So Chief, help me understand kind of the process. So if I'm interested in becoming a firefighter, I then have to say, okay, I'm going to, don't laugh, one day.
Well, I was thinking I'd say you're hired to accept those socks that you wear every day.
The socks are.
You would not make it.
I know. You have to be tough to be a firefighter, Commissioner. So I'd have some work to do. I have to go through some like early boot camp. Just being in the Navy is not going to get me
Add
there.
another degree to your resume.
Another degree, man. Yes, there's room. There's room on the resume.
Reverend Doctor.
That's right.
Second page on that.
That's
dictionary.
That's right. So I have to pay for and put myself through academy, right? Which is a cost of how much? What am I putting out about? Just $13,000.
Does that include buying your turnout gear? No.
No, that's for fire.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I mean,
So-
the cost for the fire academy, but you also have to buy your own turnout gear.
Gear,
And
okay.
that now I don't know where they have a place where they can either rent it. I think there's a rental program or a lease program that they're using, but generally speaking, it's about $3,500 just to buy the turnout gear.
It's been a long time since you purchased that stuff, huh?
You're right.
So you're looking at like
Years.
$16,500 possibly just to go through. And what's the length of time that we're talking about for the academy in
I think the fire academy is
3 months?
I was going to say, I think it's about 3 months, and that's like if it's full time. And then paramedic program is at least 2 years. Yeah.
Paramedic program's 2 years. Okay. See, and can you do these concurrently? No, it's staggered. So you spend 2 years, 3 months doing this.
I mean, you could possibly, I don't know, if you might be able to arrange your schedule to do fire academy and starting medic school, but
Yep. So you've got to be basically working at a job, correct me if I'm wrong, you got to be working at a job where you have enough extra income to above food and everything else.
Flexibility. And that's
Not only, I mean, we haven't even talked about schedule. Exactly. Childcare.
Right.
I mean, so you got to have the financial bandwidth, and then you got to have the availability, the taking care of others to even make that possible, which to me, I mean, is a massive barrier for entry for all kinds of people. So, and then Chief, walk me through, are there departments that will hire you and then put you through and pay for, and give me the pros and cons or what of that option?
So, yeah, there are
versus others.
departments that do hire non-certified and then put them through, like Miami-Dade, for example, but they run their own training academy. So they then put those individuals that they hire through the whole the whole fire academy, state certified program. So, you know, and the pros and cons, obviously the pros are that you have a bigger applicant of diversity, your pool is, and then you control that part of it. The negative is that you invest a lot of time and money and effort into them, and then they don't pass the final paramedic program, which is a necessary requirement in order to do the job.
Yep. And again, through the academy and paramedic, you're not being paid, right? As you're going through this.
Well, when you do it on your own, you are not being
You're not
paid.
being paid. Yep.
But if we do it internally, then they are being paid, as well as we probably are paying for their education, as well as the training, you know, the whole training
The whole
program.
training program. With Fort Lauderdale Police Department, on the other hand, I'm assuming when they're going through their academy, they are being paid. Is that right, Chief? Yeah. The Chief gave me the thumbs up. Or is the middle finger? No, I think it was the thumbs up. No, it's a thumbs up. So, I mean, so this is just interesting to me, is could we explore, you know, looking at lowering that barrier to entry for applicants so that they can.
So you asked the question that I was hoping to be able to answer, and I think we have to. You know, I think we have to, if we truly want to make a difference here, we have to be willing to hire an EMT and let them become a paramedic while they're working here. Or we need to hire a firefighter and let them become an EMT and then a paramedic while they're working here. And I'm willing to take the risk that, you know, they eventually don't pass a paramedic exam. But if we really are serious about this diversity hiring, which I think we really need to be, well, then we need to be looking at a lesser standard to get in the door and become employed.
Well,
The last time I checked,
do we want that though?
well,
I mean, don't we want the best quality?
we do.
Yeah.
But
so
the
we
thing that
can't-
differentiates on a piece of fire apparatus from it being advanced life support or not is that there's a paramedic on the apparatus. Not that there's 3 paramedics on the apparatus, or not that there's 2 paramedics on the apparatus. That if we're truly serious about this, then we need to look to what other agencies have done across the nation that have gotten it better than we have. And that's figure out how we get people in our door that we then allow them to become successful with that higher level of training once they're here and employed.
without,
we know
without putting the public at risk.
Yeah, but you're not
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think he misspoke, but I still think we're all talking about the same thing now, which is how do we cast this net for this demographic? And we found that there are some roadblocks along the way. It doesn't mean they're lowering the standards. You still got to pass this, pass that, pass this, and pay for that. But it's really difficult, as Ben just went through an analogy with them of cost and having that free time to go participate and still live, because you're an adult at this point. You're not at mommy's house anymore. So it's challenging. I don't think I'm saying lower the standards. I think we're saying let's give a better access. And we've seen it work in other cities or towns where it's successful, but they had to do something like this, which is sad that we all been here. You guys almost 4 years, me almost 8, and you probably 20 something. And we're having this real discussion today. You know, typically, you may have it as the mayor when you all are negotiating contracts and things of that nature, but we're spending time as a result of a decree. Now, I talk about it all the time, but then it's minimized and we move on. But today, we're trying to figure out how to get there. And I think we're getting the answers from the top folks in the room on how we do this. And one question for you, Chief. Now, if I'm a police officer right now, I don't have any degrees, and I go to enroll in Broward College, do you all pay for that?
First, let me just address one issue so I know that where we're standing. From what I understand, the Department of Justice has indicated that the police department has met the standards. Is that correct?
No.
Back in 2008, they dissolved the portion dealing with the police department.
So this is no longer a police department issue?
It's firefighter issue right now.
This is just all fire.
Okay,
this document, yeah.
Okay, so what was your question again, Commissioner?
If I'm a police officer right now and I got a high school diploma, can I go to college and get reimbursed from the police department?
When you say go to college, will we hire you with the high school diploma?
No, I'm already hired.
You're hired at the police department now?
Don't you guys pay for my post-education or something
No,
like that?
the way it works is we'll hire you if you meet the requirements.
I got that.
Then we'll pay for you to go into the police academy.
I got that.
We'll pay for the police academy and your salary.
But once I'm there, all that stuff is done. Can I now go and get a degree in something and be reimbursed?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I don't know.
I hear a lot of.
Did we pay
Been
for
through
college? Yes,
it's a
okay.
totally different program, but we do have a tuition reimbursement program.
That's what I heard. So
Okay.
we have a tuition reimbursement
Yes.
program over there for over and beyond your certification.
Correct.
And a lot of these folks who sit over there get law degrees, they get all these degrees, and then they walk out of our door at the expense of us. But the opportunities are there, and they can keep striving to be bigger, better, and brighter.
Correct.
So I think we can do it if we want to do it. And it's sad, 41 years later, we're sitting here and we're about to break the glass ceiling, if you will.
I'm just wondering, how do we compare in this ratio with other municipalities of our size, like Hollywood or Pembroke Pines or places like that?
We can look, but I don't have those numbers with me today.
I think that would be helpful to see if we're falling below
Sure.
the standard, just as a.
For police or fire?
Well,
We do it for both?
both. Yeah, both. I mean, I think that would be helpful. You know, it's interesting how over the years, how, for example, in New York, you know, you always think of the police officer. All the Irish seem to be occupying the police positions, I mean, it's like a thing in certain communities to do something.
Generation.
Yeah, exactly. And so how do we inculcate different cultures into wanting to be a part of the police department or the fire department? I think that's digging deep, but I think almost that's where we have to go, because I think ultimately it's it's not just about fairness, but it's also about in succeeding in our jobs. when you're being called in a 911 situation, and it's helpful that there's a diversity of races and sexes that show up, because it helps in our effectiveness as police department. And I think that so it's not just about tokenism; it's about effectiveness. And I think that that's the goal here. And I think that I would hope that this decree had been incorporated in our policies and procedures. And I think going forward, that should be a given, whether it be for the fire department or the police department. But we do need to dig deep and figure out ways to try to start young and cast a broad net. Surprised it's not at Dillard High School that we have this program of all places.
And again, you're talking about with the city, that's a school board, so they do it their way.
Yeah, I know.
Then typically what happens is like anything else it's in the more affluent areas where you get the better opportunities.
All right, so we'd have to change that.
We're going to talk to the principal, see if we can implement it, and we're going to pay for it. That's probably the only way we're going to get in those doors with this school board.
All
and
right.
I'm not saying anything negative about them, but that's how it typically works. But we got our community folks here saying, "Hey, we want to be a part of this," and I'm sure it's the efforts of the two of you that they're doing this. But Andy and those came around for us with the homeless initiatives, So.
So in response to the city attorney's request, are we ready for this change yet, or are we still?
I don't think we're ready, based on what I'm hearing. And I've heard Steve's.
No, oops, I'm sorry. As I said, I don't think these are.
It's too old.
No, I don't think. I think it's a false choice. Actually, I think it's not mutually exclusive. I'm very ready to agree with the DOJ to. Get rid of this, but again, and not in any way minimizing the work that we have ahead of us, the research that we have to do in terms of how can we change the process, how can we look at helping folks pay for what they need to do to get to that point, how we can model it a little bit closer to the police department model. But I support actually getting rid of this 41-year-old document that DOJ obviously has no interest in participating in. So it would just be. We would be asking them to basically just dissolve this on their own. I think it's much stronger if we are proactive in saying yes. Have we made progress since 1980? Yes. Are we where we want to be? No. But we agree with you to dissolve the decree. That's how I feel.
But I still think
I can add maybe it's
I hear you, but I still think if it wasn't for these people, we wouldn't have this satisfaction up here or even this conversation. But just look at the police department. I'm not picking on you. From the time from Roberts to Adderley to Great, how our numbers just shifted all of a sudden. But that's up to the leadership, not you, because you don't control that piece. And Chief Kerr coming on board, look where our numbers shifted. They started shifting upward and more inclusive. Because of who we put there. But if we weren't sitting here, I don't think this conversation would have ever taken place for this length of time and this much thought. So as you speak to the age of the document and you discriminate with the age of the document, it's the content that concerns me the most, the content. And until we can get in a room, even a room like this one, and it reflects our community, it's just tough, and it's tough for us to do. So I would like to see it stay in place, or we do the swap, as the mayor is saying, and others have indicated, of leadership. And I believe Chris has pledged that on more than one occasion. But we got to get it in writing, because I may not be here, you may not be here, and the new guys come in and it's a whole nother ball game. That's not important.
But it'll always be about the people that are here.
Should be.
Well, it will always be.
You gonna be around forever?
Well, I can't promise you forever, but
you're close forever.
Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so
No, seriously.
I think we can do both here. I think we can. I love how we've been working hand in hand with DOJ on this. We've had really good communications. It sounds like we're engaged. So I think us going back to DOJ and saying, hey, we're working on a plan with specificity to lay the path forward, and our plan is to bring this plan for recruitment and getting the numbers where they need to be. And once we flesh out that plan and the city commission approves, we're interested in together releasing and the decree. But until that point of specificity, I don't feel comfortable letting go of this.
All right. Okay.
I agree with that.
Yes, sir.
So until we figure a way, so we just need to codify what's in
Yeah.
here. Codify what's in here, make it policies and procedures, and then we can feel comfortable. Not just
Understood.
in fire, but also in police.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's
Thanks, Chief.
obnoxious to any of the efforts that we've been attempting to anyway. But as Commissioner McKenzie says, that's the spirit of the current administration and the commission. But we don't know who succeeds us and whether or not they're going to have the same attitude. So, which they could change it when they come into office. But the point is that we should set a standard, and I think that once that standard has been codified, then I have no problem releasing the. All right.
And sounds great. I think I know how he'll answer the question, but I was hoping that we could have brought this forward at the next meeting to coincide with the plan that I was hoping that we would adopt by policy. But there seemed to be some sense of urgency in the discussion today. Do we have, do you think, 2 weeks?
I can't control the DOJ. Obviously, I'll convey the commission's sentiment. I think they might actually be listening as well. So I'll convey that to them and see if I know
Their government.
They've been very because
a long time.
they wanted to do this over a year ago. So we'll see.
Well, how quickly would it take us to just put this together?
2 weeks?
Okay.
I mean, it's almost done now. It was great.
He won't get hung up in the attorney's office?
I'm sorry.
He won't get hung up in the attorney's office?
Oh, his
Every
part.
time I ask a
Everything
question-
gets hung up in the attorney's office.
Yes.
thank you, Mayor.
Don't start. Yeah,
Don't
don't
start.
get him started.
No, thank you. Okay, last week I did learn a lot, and it was a pleasure to meet with the folks from the Boring Company and really see.
Well, that's right. You went to Las Vegas.
Yes, so that was an excellent learning experience. I really found it fascinating what was accomplished, and to me, an amazingly relatively short time. I did do a little bit more research on that, and there's some good reports out there. There's actually a good CNBC report. Shepard Smith did a good video with a reporter out there. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but I thought it was really well done. I'll look forward to getting some more information on that, and also hoping to talk to some of the cities where things have sort of stalled a little bit with that project. So that'll be interesting. But it was very educational. Wanted to just say to everyone involved, I thought that was a great day at War Memorial Auditorium. I thought that was a terrific day. It was so well attended. Very exciting that project's moving forward with the Panthers and what's going to happen at War Memorial Auditorium. Very important for the community. That evening, South Middle River Civic Association met. Thursday, May 27th, I did attend the Pulse on Downtown Fort Lauderdale Market Report from the DDA and Colliers. Found it very, very interesting. All of the indicators across all sectors are so positive for Fort Lauderdale. I thought it was an excellent report. I think we could probably get a copy of that. I think it's available. Maybe if you haven't read it, folks, I would recommend everyone take a look at it. The statistics are excellent. As I said, it crosses all sectors, and it's very bullish for Fort Lauderdale. So that's all terrific news. I think this is a quarterly series now that they're going to start. This was the first of the quarterly series, and it dealt mostly with commercial real estate. Again, really positive. Saturday, May 29th, everyone involved, particularly Parks and Recreation, thank you so much. I thought the Great American Beach Party was terrific. So nice to see people out and about and smiling and happy and really enjoying themselves. Just a great day for everyone on the beach. Do we have any idea, Chris, how many people actually were at the beach that day? It seemed incredibly
It was packed.
busy.
I don't have a number. Phil, do you have any idea?
About 459 people,
Which day? Great
including
American
you.
Beach Party?
Saturday, yeah, the Great American Beach Party.
459.
459 people?
Yes, sir.
I don't know that we've estimated a number, but you are correct. It was
It was busy.
Well,
very, very well attended.
thank you, Commissioner McKenzie. I'll make sure you never handle my finances. Thank you. 459 people.
That was a people question, not finance.
I did notice that the main park area was kind of vacant, and I think it's because, is there any way we could, Phil, do they have some sort of shade structures that we can temporarily install to allow people to feel comfortable? Because the sun was hot and it was kind of uncomfortable. Most people sort of spread to the perimeter where there might have been something shade.
They went for the trees.
So, Mayor, yeah, we had the same concern, and we knew that was going to be a problem. In theory, the idea with the trees on the east and west side was supposed to help as they filled in, but I don't know if that's going to help much. The challenge in the middle area, because it is a synthetic turf, is putting anything in there. And then secondly, the shade structures would then block the view of others in the area. So we are looking at that, because I noticed the same thing, that people were all sitting in the shade, and that middle area was not well attended because of that reason. So we are looking at our options and seeing what's out there. We actually talked about it this morning. But that's the challenge. Once you put a shade up or a tent up or anything like that, then if you're behind it, you can't see the stage, you can't see what's going on. So, but we are looking at it.
Okay, great.
And they did kind of venture out once we started speaking. Yeah. But it was scorching. I mean, out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Commissioner
just,
which way did they venture out when he started speaking?
Well, they started
Away or
coming
towards?
towards.
Oh, towards. Oh, okay.
Yeah, were you on the drums?
Oh, okay.
And I was on the keyboard.
Okay. I just I thought you meant the crowd was venturing away.
No, that's not what I meant.
Okay.
You're just being
Listen,
yourself.
you.
I told you need to put a door on there
Okay.
and tent,
Thank you. Anyway, thank you, Phil, and thank you to the staff.
soundproof.
It was a terrific event to bring people back. It really, it was really heartwarming to see everyone out there and having a great time.
Was that in District 2?
Yes, it is. Thank you. I thought the Memorial Day ceremonies, again, all involved in putting all that together. It's so important that we commemorate and recognize and respect and honor. So again, yesterday, 2 events that the city is involved in. Again, thank you to all that were involved for that. Tomorrow evening, Victoria Park Civic Association is meeting.
Commissioner,
I'm sorry.
Can I just back to the subject of the Memorial Day ceremonies? Is there any way we could limit at the cemetery the time of the speakers?
To have a what?
The speakers. I mean, sometimes they go on and on and on. Can we limit those?
Well, who did we have? We had Dr. Ruddy, we had the Colonel, we had
Colonel went on for a minute.
me,
Commissioner Ryan,
Commissioner Ryan,
you, me,
Senator.
people.
Thurston had like 30 seconds, but they
Yeah,
limited
he-
him.
he was an
That made me
add-on.
think about it. You know,
He was an add-on.
but they told him 30 seconds and he did it. So, I mean, if we give the speakers a time limit?
Well, the whole ceremony lasted less than an hour. So between the National Anthem and the Doves, I think we did it all within an hour. So
Okay.
I think it was okay.
Commissioner Connie, Colonel Christensen, Connie, she won't dedicate it again next year
I
to
know.
the wall. So that'll be one component that won't be there as much next year.
Maybe you could move a few of the speakers to the second event and just even it out a little bit. I don't know if that
Because
works.
no
with
one
every-
shows up there at all,
Maybe you could just even it out a bit.
except post 220 and the other posts and then us. And
It's kind of their event. In a way. It's kind of their event.
I know, but I know we had some. So District 2, a representative was pretty upset with Commissioner Glassman about the
I don't know who you're
lack of
talking.
marketing.
Lack of market.
Okay.
Anyway, maybe we could just have some of the speakers could split the
Okay.
events, whatever. But anyway, I think
Go ahead.
No, I mean, but The other one's super. I've been going for.
Well, the other thing I thought was missing was I think in the future we should invite all previous members of this commission to sit on stage. I mean, I think it's respectful. They've attended in the past, and I just think they don't have to speak, but I just think, you know, as a courtesy to previous,
Good idea.
you know, just as a courtesy, we should always invite them instead of. I mean, Jack Seiler was out in the crowd, and I thought that was very disrespectful. I thought he should be on stage. Like I said, even though then we're not asking them to speak, but I think it's an honor to be asked to be on the stage. Okay.
I think, and Mayor, I think it's a great point. I think we should invite former mayors and commissioners more frequently to city events.
I agree.
And I don't know what those events
In
would
a
be.
formal way, rather than
In a formal way, yeah. It should be just sending. And so, Chris, I don't know if we can have strategic communications or who that would fall under.
You ever notice anything about politicians on elected? They kind of like fade away.
Yeah.
Jack's an exception.
Right.
But most of them kind of disappear.
Yeah, yeah. But I'd just like them to know that they're invited. And maybe it's 2 or 3 events a year.
They don't have to come.
They don't have to come, but I want them, I think it's important.
Yeah.
You know, they're invited.
All right.
Okay,
Steve, I'm sorry.
great. Go
No,
ahead.
no problem. It's okay. Again, tomorrow evening, Victoria Park Civic Association. Thursday, Riverwalk is having their annual tribute. It's to Beverly Altman. Tuesday, the 8th, I'll be attending the International Swimming Hall of Fame Board of Directors meetings. Wednesday, June 9th, I will be meeting with the Solid Waste Working Group and reporting everybody's feelings from our last meeting here at the Commission. I'll also be hosting the District 2 Neighborhood Presidents Roundtable meeting on Wednesday, June 9th. And I'll also be participating in a LGBTQ elected officials forum with the Dolphin Democrats on Wednesday evening. Let's see, just a couple of other comments.
That's a Zoom meeting, right?
That is a Zoom meeting, yes, and there, I think there are 4 elected officials scheduled on that panel. Just wanted to mention today is the first day of hurricane season, so hopefully everyone is prepared and knows what to do in case of an emergency. And I'm sure we'll be getting information out from the city, but it's important that everyone has their checklist and knows what supplies should be available. And tonight we will be doing a proclamation, but today is also the first day of Pride Month. That's about it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Great. Robert?
I really don't have a report, but I do want to say that we had 4 state champions, maybe 5, high schools this past year, and I think we recognized some of them. I made calls to the schools in my area, St. Thomas and Dillard High School. Last Wednesday night, I presented them at their game, both track and football. And when St. Thomas's season starts back up, we're going to go out there and present them their recognition as well.
Why aren't we doing it here?
We had when it happened, it was the COVID, so it wouldn't allow them to come in person. So we reached out, and we just found a different platform.
All right, because I think that, you know.
I mean, now that we're open, we probably could bring St. Thomas in.
Yeah, we should always, so bring that to our attention when, you know, things like that happen.
Yeah, but no, we talked about it. It's just that Heather brought them in here. They weren't comfortable bringing kids from their schools out at that particular time. So typically we have them here, especially Dillard and St. Thomas, as much as they win. So I just wanted to make mention to that in case someone calls you and say we didn't do anything, because I got a call last night from someone wanted to recognize Dillard's track. I'm like, we've done that.
Tonight we have Pinecrest tonight. It's coming, a couple of proclamations.
We got a couple.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
From Pinecrest.
And the other thing I was wanting to mention, there was some confusion the other day with shots being fired in my district, which is not uncommon because I speak to these incidents all the time, but
Is that Bass Park?
Bass Park. And I think what has happened here is there was not a shooting at the park. There was a shooting, shots fired on the side street to the park, and there was some parents from Rio Vista there that kind of, in my opinion, changed the narrative of that whole outcome. I know I wasn't notified, and I found out later that none of you were notified either. But as I reached out and talked to all parties involved, I understood why we weren't notified, because there was no direct hit. It was a shots fired, and at the lieutenant level, it's his or her call on how they complete or terminate that report. Am I correct, Chief? So,
But you know what? Not to interrupt you, but I got a report this morning by the shot spotter that
yeah,
there
but
were
hold
7
on.
rounds
Let
and
me
there's still
finish.
no victim.
But let me finish.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you're getting them because I asked for them. So now you got like 8 of them in the last 48 hours because I asked specifically for the police to I want all shots reported, to me. I want to know, because if a neighbor calls, hey, I heard a shot, on the other side of Ben's house, I want to be able to say that, my officers gave me the heads up on it. Not to have a heads up is very embarrassing. But after we had our chat on Friday, I found out why. And I think we started pitting neighborhoods against each other. But when you think about the 2 neighborhoods, they're equally as important. They're equally as affluent. The William Dandys, the Dorset Millers, and the Margaret Haney Birches, and a lot of prominent folk came out of that community. They built those homes back in the day, and it's a very quiet.
This is Lake Air?
Lake Air, very quiet community, and they just didn't want to be portrayed in this negative manner, because when Suzanne was pulling stats, was pulling stats on it, she pulled within a mile radius of that neighborhood and Rio Vista, and one was here and one was here. But as I described to her, those elements were outside of that neighborhood. So this couple, or these 2 cars that were fighting, or one pursuing the other, chose that path to kind of shake the aggressor. And on that street is where they fired the shots. And sent this panic. And our park staff did a great job, of getting the kids to safety. I just think these parents had never experienced anything like that. And when they called for help, they were saying that no one over there called for help. They were saying that if this was in Rio Vista, there'd have been more coverage. There'd have been helicopters and this big show, and I agree with that. I agree with that scenario. But as we dug deeper, there were a number of calls made from the residents and concerns about this type of behavior, because it's not typical in that neighborhood. It's just like before when I started talking about these stores and all these shootings, around town. Mayor, you made a comment that, if the people would call, we give them the service they're looking for. And then when the reporters went out and did the report, there was 100 and something calls for service at that store where the little girl got shot at, in a couple months span. So they do call for service. A lot of times it's, people are fearful, because of the same behavior. But what we do find out, and even with the shooting in front of the store, I always say this behavior doesn't come from our citizens. These people come from other places. And
That's the problem.
That's the problem. So the person who shot that little girl, what we think shot, is not from City of Fort Lauderdale. No. But they were allowed to come through with the car show and the motorcycles you often speak about, that we try to keep out of our city, the ATVs and that stuff. This is that crowd that's doing that in front of the store now. But back to Lake Air, the neighbors are just, I know y'all got our email this morning from the HOA president, very concerned about, how we paint this picture of that neighborhood. And you've been over there countless times, Mayor, with Ms. Haney Birch, and it's a good neighborhood. And even as they speak to wanting more policing, it's not that they wanted it for these type situations. It's just a police presence. And that's what they're asking for. So I think as we open up, we'll probably begin to see that scenario change, because we've always had a good relationship with policing and that community. And I think, the message that, I sent out may have concerned some folks who are thinking that, I don't support the police, but I've always supported City of Fort Lauderdale Police Department and will continue until, you demonstrate something differently to me. Now, I do have probably the same concerns you all have right now with where we're going with the police chief search and how quickly can we get there. So a lot of times my frustration is with the administration, and not to take a knock at our interim chief now, but until we get that settled, there's just so much uneasiness and morale concerns that we have in that department. I understand it's getting better since you've been there, Chief. And a lot of the calls for service I want typically aren't getting the attention I need because of whatever reason. And right now, I understand these are tough times for policing, and there's just some things they're not comfortable doing right now during these times you see around the country, and some of the reprimanding that comes down if an action is outside of a policy. So we have folks that are uncomfortable policing right now. So I mean, until we get what we need permanently to assure the troops that we got their backs, I mean, you're going to have these type of concerns in the halls of policing based on what I'm gathering, and I think we're moving in that direction according to what I got from the city manager on Friday. But I just didn't want Lake Air being demonized, and I didn't want the police department being demonized, because when I first was informed, it was that this Rio Vista parent said that the police responded slowly, but there was 12 of our officers on that scene within 5 minutes, so they did their jobs. Yeah, but the lieutenant, who I know and respect very well, Eddie Cruz, made the call that case was closed out because you didn't have anyone injured. It didn't hit anybody. So they collected casings for further evidence in the future, and that report is closed. Am I correct in how I summarize that, sir? Because even the community, they're getting the wrong information. So I want to make sure they understand. We'll be at their next HOA meeting explaining to them what happened that day. And it was an isolated incident, basically, in that neighborhood.
Good afternoon. The investigation is still ongoing, and we would love if we had some support from the public, some information.
For Bass Park?
Yes. So
I thought they told me they terminated. You guys told me Friday you terminated.
It's the investigation. That initial aspect of it is completed. That's correct.
Then the bullets.
We're still open to. We would love to have more information. If there's something more that we can act on, we will continue the investigation of that case.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to clear up that stuff on both sides of the fence, because I was heated. I understand from some of your comments you were heated as well for not being informed, but that's why you're getting all those reports now. So shootings happen all the time in our city. Yeah, but you know what? We bought a piece of equipment a few months ago for about $500,000, and now we get every shot that's fired within a radius. And it was interesting. I was over at the sheriff's office the other day and looked at some other cities, and we were the first to get ShotSpotter, and we have a larger range of reporting shots fired in our city. So that's a compliment to us. And any other tools you need to help you, please let us know so we can provide that service. Thank you. All right. And I had a great time with all the events we went to, so I think Steve hit it right on the head in terms of what's going on. But what I do have a problem with is with the good District 2 commissioner is that he thinks that he owns District 2. It belongs to all of us. It's the citizens. It's the taxpayers. It's not yours, Stephen.
Where's all this defensive?
I got it on tape this time.
Where's this coming from?
No, but we had a great time.
So defensive.
Are you done?
I am done.
But no, we had a great time.
Is that you done?
The beach party was amazing. I'm sure you didn't have anything to do with it other than showing up and posting it all over Facebook. But I thought it was really good over in the park other than the shade piece.
Can we go to District 4 Commission reports?
Keep going.
I normally forego my time, so
I think what the commissioner's been talking about is really, really important.
Yeah.
I'm happy you're bringing this up because awareness is so important to achieve, the correct resolution of some of these problems that come up. So, I know the people. I remember when I first campaigned for mayor years ago. I walked the Lake Air property and met a lot of great folks. Not all black. It was an interesting neighborhood, and it's definitely one that I feel doesn't deserve any kind of negative reputation as a result of what happened. It's just unfortunate that these folks decided to use that as their playground to exchange gunfire. So, Commissioner Sorensen.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to just
better watch it.
Commissioner McKenzie's points are important ones to talk through, and I've got a couple other questions too about that to city leadership. So one, Chris, I'm still not getting alpha pages or alerts.
Yeah, so I sent that information in for you to be added over the weekend. So I expect within a couple of business days you'll be added.
I'll be added.
Yeah.
Okay.
May even be today.
Okay, great.
What service do you have?
Thank you. It's my city cell phone, Verizon.
When I first got here, I couldn't get it because I had a certain carrier.
Oh,
so
really?
Get it. That's why I asked the question.
What carrier do you have?
I'm Verizon.
Verizon. Okay. All
But
right.
I had to go get that to get it.
Oh, to get the delivery. Okay. All right, good. So that's with the notifications. For the response to Lake Air, there's some feeling in the community that it wasn't efficient and full response to Lake Air, the shootings. Commissioner McKenzie, I think what you're sharing is you felt like it was appropriate in terms of the response.
I think we responded appropriately. But after the fact, but when I got the call, I knew nothing.
Yep.
I rushed right over, knocked on doors, and got all the information I needed about it and who called who. It just started playing out.
Yeah.
And they are just as concerned as any other resident in the city about this type of behavior or wanting the best for their neighborhoods. But I just think it was blown out of proportion. Although the gentleman was he partial? I think his statement was right because he obviously feels a certain way to make that kind of comment that and he compared it to like a propane leak or something one day, and they had everybody out there, and I just think there were shots fired. 12 officers showed up, interviewed staff at the park, talked to neighbors, and if there's no injured body or property, there's nothing really to report at that time. But like the chief said, the collection of casings, will be further investigated and could lead to the shooter. And I think they even talked to, and I don't like to put too much of that stuff out there, even talked to, I think, a female that day that knew more than what others knew.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. I will follow back up with the HOA. We're going to have police at their next meeting to explain in depth, what happened as much as they can, and just satisfy her request for police presence. But I think people have been shut in, so we don't typically have the patterns that we once had when folks were out and about. And so I think we're going to see a change in that. I think the police responded appropriately.
Great. Yeah, no, that helps because I feel the same. I feel like our Fort Lauderdale police do amazing work. And
yeah, but see, you can say that
like
because you live in Rio Vista. So we got different perspectives of how policing is viewed. And oftentimes, because I may have more people loitering in front of a store, that's an issue with me. You're not having that problem because the minute someone in your neighborhood sees that, it's going to be dealt with much quicker. We've allowed it to take place in my district for so long, but I've been talking about stores and people loitering. How long, Mayor? Since we've been together, right? And for some reason, we can't fix it. And these are the issues that I'm frustrated with, and we talk about every Friday, and how we can address it. But in these current times, officers are afraid to go and say, let's keep it moving, And in most of those incidents, folks either drink an open container. A lot of those folks are selling drugs, in these places that border these good neighborhoods. And the minute something happens, the little girl being shot, it becomes, news. But I've been talking about this type of behavior since coming here. I heard the last commissioner talk about it and the commissioner before that talk about it. So it's different eyes and views on policing. So when you can say, I think they're doing a good job, you're saying it from your perspective. You rode out there that day and you got a little glimpse of the streets, but you went at the wrong time because people were still kind of hiding as a result of the last shooting on 8th Street and 22nd Road. So we just have to be careful and cognizant of each other's districts, especially when we're looking for a quote for the paper. I'm not saying you did anything wrong. I'm just trying to, like the mayor said, making awareness to things and educating folks, you get a different view of it. So I think that's where the residents are, especially in that email. She's upset and she's comparing apples and oranges in terms of what she feels about what she's getting. But we're going to get in front of her and we're going to make them feel as comfortable as we can. And when we were meeting in my district, the Nat teams were there. They had relationships, and Miss Haney died, so she was really the gatekeeper for that neighborhood. So now this other person's trying to step up, but Miss Haney had all the police officers, eating out of her hands. And she's right next door to Miss Haney. So that transition's got to take place, and she's got to get comfortable with the officers. And I've never had a real problem with my patrol officers. They've always responded well. It was up until the epidemic is when I think things took a turn for the worse, other than the stores. The stores have always been a problem, and they always will as long as they exist.
That helps. Yeah, I appreciate it. And I also think that, and again, my perspective, I don't think police are afraid of policing. So I think we've got a very strong culture in the police department, and I think it's going very well. And we can always improve, but I think there's a lot of good direction where we're going.
But I still think you're getting the east side version, I'm getting the west side version. So you're not asking for the same type of policing I'm asking for. So, they're there for the gas leak. They're there for the garbage can that got ran over by the neighbor. They're there for the little kid that that's going after these Range Rovers and these high-end cars where people are keeping their keys in the cars, and the kids know that if the mirrors are one way, keys are in it. The mirrors are another way, keys aren't in it, so we can just tap the glass and get the contents.
Never thought of that.
No, but that's what they're doing. It's a Coral Ridge, it's Rio Vista, it's the high end, and it's always these Range Rovers. Even the kids that we chased the other day, two of those kids were Dillard High School students. And that's what concerned me the most, is that there were two kids that should have been in school that day, that someone put up to go and get these high-end cars. And when they were apprehended, a chase ensued, and look at what happened that day. I mean, they walked away from the accident, but what I thought about, and we talked about in our meeting is, how do we now go out and police this? We have to go into those schools and be able to talk to those kids because, to me, a greater consequence of that would have been if that person at that home had made it outside where those kids were and started firing off some rounds. So someone's luring these kids into doing these things. I don't think they just got up and say, hey, I'm going to Rio Vista, I'm going to 38th Street, and get this Range Rover behind this locked gate. I mean, that's just not the mentality of a teenager. I mean, they may pull a lock or something and grab some change, but to go steal high-end vehicles and you're not even, a certified license holder, I think we learn again from here. But that's the type culture I'm dealing with that sometimes get mislabeled on what it is, because when I get the phone calls from my folks, I got a buddy 3 times in the last 2 months, his wife's Range Rover, has been hit. But he says, I don't want to buy the glass. So I keep it open. And I keep change in my truck so that when they come, they can just take the change and leave. But if he had caught a kid in his yard, without question, those kids would be dead. But it's the same profile of kids that are doing this and walking these neighborhoods at night. So to me, I would like to see a campaign on trying to educate these kids on what not to do, and community policing is where we do that. So I still think you're going to always have a different view because you get different results based on the type of crime you're reporting. So I'm trying to clear this up for everybody. So, and like I told the reporter, I don't use the word black and white. I use east, west, north, and south. But everybody gets the picture. Everybody gets the picture. So that's why I thought it necessary today for you and I really to sift through the weeds, because you're quick to respond about issues that pertain to me directly, because you're defending the same folks I'm defending, which is the police department. But I think that the issues and the subject matter is different, and that's what I'm comparing when I say you damn right about what I said in reference to East and West and policing. So, but the message is clear. They are good, but it's different types of perspectives and behavior and crime and reporting.
Sure, and that's why I rolled out and came with PD with your blessing out to the stores, and you tell me I'm happy to come out anytime because it's important. It's our whole community.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, I've still got plenty, Mayor. So yeah, hang on. So a couple things on that, Chris. This is gonna be more for you. So some of the concerns, just one of the concerns around this has been, kind of reporting of these events. And I don't know what they're right. Neighbors are basically asking, how can we know what's happening when there's crimes like this?
In real time, that's a very good question, because at the speed of the internet these days, things outpace even our ability to put stuff on Nextdoor and other social media places. Let me sit down with our police department. There's a couple of electronic tools that might be available to us to provide more real in-time updates. But the honest answer to your question is it's really difficult to try to outpace the speed at which information flows today.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's been, let's see here, if I can get here. What NAT teams that I'm familiar with, the NAT teams do a great job of is saying, hey, here's the crime in this area, whatever area it is or neighborhood it is, and get up-to-date reporting on that. Is that something if neighbors want reporting, we can get those stats?
I guess let me turn to the chief and find out what the capabilities of the NAT team are.
Can I say something? And just based on my experience, and I've been to probably most of the neighborhood meetings in the city, and I know NAT is welcome everywhere that I've been. I mean, even back when you were a commissioner, Mayor Trentalis, we used to do the 13th Street stuff up in that Union Hall. Remember? And Nat and had everybody in the room trying to hash it out. Nat, the other when we got the detective piece that we put in Rock.
The Rock
units. They're all at my agenda meetings. And I give all policing issues to them at that particular time. So they're welcome, I know, in my district. And I've seen them even over in other areas. And I think when COVID came about, we kind of lost what we did on a daily basis. It's just getting back open and doing things that we're accustomed to, because they're like the best tool that I have in my toolkit.
Absolutely. Yep.
And several times they were taken away from me when we had mandates at the beach. And then when they're gone,
right,
it's amazing the impact that they have when their presence is not on the streets in my district, because they're the ones that know the residents firsthand, and they're dealing with a lot of the issues. But since COVID, and if there's a beach party or something going on, or something on the beach that's important, they always take they take my personnel to the beach, and then we get an uptick in some of these crimes that we typically can get a handle on. Not the stores, we can get a handle on. So from my perspective, yes.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
A couple of things. I think I agree with you, Commissioner, on the fact that COVID has had its impacts. What I've asked, and what really it's not that I've asked, is what the agency has indicated. A year ago, we were much more involved in the community than we are today. So what we're doing now is we're working to get back to where we were as far as our community interactions and community involvements pre-COVID. One of those was the front porch meeting that we had 2 weeks ago, I believe, and that was tremendously successful. I've heard what you've said, Commissioner, about officers being pulled for events on the beach. I can tell you with spring break and with Memorial Weekend, that did not happen. We didn't take officers out of your neighborhood like you've mentioned. So that's been addressed. I think we're getting back to the point of doing what the department was doing probably a year and a half ago, and I think you'll see some changes in that in the very near future. So we're on the right track, I think, at this point.
So explain to the commissioner what you mentioned. Roll call, right? We do a front porch roll call. We used to do it. Then when we changed chiefs, it went away. He has a community forum meeting, and what did they say? What happened to our front porch roll call? So that's when the officers change shift. They do it at one of the residents' homes, and you see a police presence in the neighborhood, and then they are able to talk about just the little things on their streets that I typically now have to carry to you because no one's meeting or coming out at this particular time. But we're getting back to normal, I think. And I'm going to try a couple meetings, and see if my seniors come back out, because I got a lot of older residents that attend those meetings, and they love that arm of this front porch deal. I mean,
yes.
We're doing another one on the 16th. Am I correct?
Yeah, I don't remember the date, but there is another one coming up. So
they love it, and it caught on like wildfire. And the police now, because they're not where we sit, they're not living in the Rio Vista neighborhood. They're not living in Dorset River Bend like me. You know your neighbors. You know what their wants and needs are. So they thought the folks in my district would resist it. Open it with open arms. Let me just welcome it. And when it went away, things got worse. But it fell on deaf ears. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier. If we don't have the chief curs, in these positions, anything we say up here can go away. But if we have it in writing and it's our policy, and we do it each and every day, Rock works, NAT team works, community policing works, all this stuff works. But the minute we change the person at the top and they don't have this policy or these walking instructions, we lose everything that you're questioning today. We lose, and I lost all of that, but now it's coming back.
Correct.
Good. That's great. And Chief, just question being, if we want stats for certain areas, can we just request that from the NAT team or whoever?
Whatever you'd like. You
Yeah,
can send an email to me
okay.
and we'll get you whatever information you need. So.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Great. Thanks, Chief. Next topic, Mayor. I've got Bahia Mar. I want to see how y'all's discussions are going on Bahia Mar.
So I continue to meet with the representatives from the Bahia Mar, and I believe I have a meeting next week and our continuing discussion. Everything is still kind of up in the air. But we are, I think, making progress. One of the meetings I need to have is with, I just been texted, it's going to be tomorrow morning. So,
Okay.
But one of the things I need to confer with the boat show folks, because whatever the developer is offering now, I have to make sure it works for the boat show, and I'm hoping that maybe even by the next meeting, I might be able to come back to this commission and talk about some of the ideas that have been afloat, and we can make some decisions from there. Does that work for
Okay,
you?
great. What about you, Commissioner?
Yes,
Similar to what you're
same
doing?
with me. I'm continuing my meetings. I'm actually hoping that we can have a conference meeting discussion where it's
Yeah.
more than just a report, but actually a full discussion like we did in March. I think it would be a great idea for us to do that. I've continued to meet. I think a lot of changes have happened on site plan, and I've already talked to the tenant about how we go about that process of reporting back out to the neighborhoods. Having a conference meeting discussion where people can come here, and then what it would look like in terms of having to go back through the DRC, P&Z commission. So basically the same as him. I've had, since our last commission meeting, 2 other meetings since then.
So you're feeling good, huh?
I'm always feeling good, Commissioner.
About the issue.
We're making progress.
Yeah,
Talking about him. I know you are, but
We're making significant progress.
I'm much more optimistic now than I was when that last site plan was approved by the former commission. Yes.
good to hear.
Good to hear.
And we can talk, Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, we can talk about anything up here, right? We're
Yeah.
sunshine. Yeah. Okay.
As long
'Cause
as-
there's-
Yeah, this
So
is when you do it. Yeah.
yeah. So where are you all on in terms of the,
But I
like
don't think they want us to
extended,
talk yet.
what's
Yeah,
that?
I don't think the developer wants us to reveal anything yet until we've got something more concrete.
Okay, well, I think that's part of, I think we need to kind of bring this into the sunshine.
I
But I-
agree.
but
I think it's
That's what I'm saying
time
at the
to,
next meeting.
start talking about
But
this.
I think also, Commissioner, I think it's much fair to the public if it's as a notice commission agenda item. People might not be listening. Now, you have questions, but it's not fair now to the public for
Absolutely.
you to have the questions and then us discussion
Right.
without the public being aware of this. That's why it needs to be an agenda item.
Absolutely. So let's agenda it. When can we have it agenda?
Yeah, but I think, not cutting you off, I think what we talked about was these two vetting it and then bringing it to us for our open discussion, sunshine, and public input, and we can go through the nuts and bolts. Right now, it's just the mayor and correct me, Steve. You guys are saying, "Hey, move this piece over here, move, or change this until everyone is."
Yeah, I want to hear what he's been.
But he's not going
he
to tell
wants
us
to hear
anything.
what I've been discussing.
So we'll do that when.
Right, but I think you don't want to do that at the end of the process. I think you do that staggered. You have a public meeting, right? You have a public meeting,
No,
then
I
you
think
guys can keep talking, then we have a big public meeting. See, it's a progression. That's how.
I don't think. I think we have the best point person right now, and point persons to get it back to us to have this fair discussion that we all want to have.
Yeah,
Good with
great.
that.
So let's schedule it. Yeah. So
I think they have to finish what they're doing right before they
and that's the
schedule.
thing. I don't think they need to finish it. I think this is
Yeah,
an
but that's-
ongoing
but-
discussion.
I think you're just going
This-
to both get hung up on the word finish and the meaning of the
Yeah.
word finish, because even when we quote finish whatever it is that we're doing and it comes back to this commission, there's still a long road of public hearings. There's a long road of,
Listen, I get it.
Absolutely.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
let you get
yeah.
something back here so
yeah.
we can have a
I
chat.
would just say, Commissioner, just a patience, a little patience, and we're going to get there. But
No, thank
I don't
you.
want us to
So
come
let's
back-
set a date.
I don't want us to come back when we're not, what's wrong?
No,
We're laughing at you. Have to have patience.
patience. We're working on it. We were charged with meeting with them.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to have something substantial to bring back.
But that's the thing. It doesn't have to be substantial. It can be, here's some ideas you're talking about. It's important for the public to be involved in discussions and hearing this all.
And
Don't
they
you-
will.
don't you agree?
We only had that huge meeting a few months ago. I think we've made a lot of progress, but I would say let us at least figure a certain amount of time where we can at least finish what it is we would like to accomplish before we bring it back. I don't,
Okay, so what date do you, what,
So we
give
can
me
give a
approximate
progress
date.
report. We can give a progress report.
That'd be great.
I think
yeah.
I think your
So-
request has merit, and we
Great.
can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So let's set a date for that. So what's
The next meeting is.
next meeting? Okay, great.
Sounds
So we'll do
Let me
commission.
just be clear there, because if it's just a progress report, we're just going to hear a report and move on, right? Because it needs its own agenda. If BHMR gets printed on an agenda, it becomes the agenda.
Yes.
So
No, that's true.
No, I
That's why
agree.
I'm saying
But this is such an important topic that it does need engagement. We do
So
need to have people.
maybe
have a
we
chance.
should look at its own date then.
Talk about
for a
this.
Meeting with this one topic, because I really, between now and the break, only have two more conference meetings. And we're scheduling items now for after the commission break for conference. So if we need BHMR to jump in front of things, it's just, we're going to put a lot off between now and July if we try to hold it on an already scheduled commission meeting day. But if you all are willing to schedule an extra meeting with that one topic, I think that's something we
Like a
could look
workshop.
at, because it's going to take every bit of time we allow for it, it will take up.
All right, so we should schedule a workshop then on this. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, I think that's great.
We'll
I
get
think
our,
that's-
we'll get our people to figure.
Yeah, I think people really appreciate that chance to
your
talk,
point is
share.
well taken.
There's a lot of
I agree with you.
yeah concern out there. So great, thank you. So that sounds great. Let's see, Alan, you and I were talking about this, but I just wanted to kind of make sure we're all on the same page on this. Of when we're looking at the ability to review subleases. Article 26, you want to,
Right, we did discuss that today, which I've been speaking with Mr. Chettle about. It's hard to go into full explanation here without the benefit of the document in front of those that are hearing it.
sure.
In the actual lease, there's a conflict between Article 20 and Article 26 when it regards the marina operations and subleases related to that. In Article 26, there is a provision where the city manager has the authority to review subleases, other subleases that are delineated within the lease. As most know, there's a variety of leases on that property with regards to some commercial enterprises going on there and so on and so forth. So there is seemingly an ability to do that. Historically, I don't think that's ever really been enforced, for the lack of a better term. It's usually been hands-off with regards to how they operate the premises. There seems to be that ability. Again, when you get to the marina operations, it's a little iffy because you have that contradictory statement or provision within Article 20, but there seems to be on other leases the ability to review those under Article 26.
Yeah. And I think that's just, I think that's important just, and maybe everyone knows this or most people know this already, but I think it's important to say, hey, the city manager has the legal authority to review subleases.
Correct.
BHMR, right?
For the ones that are delineated, yes.
Yes. And the ones that are delineated are generally.
Well, there's a list. I don't have it. I didn't
Yeah.
bring it down with
That's
me.
fine. We
but
can
yeah.
hit it at the workshop too, just to kind of
Yeah.
cover. But there's significant degree of oversight. Now, historically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, but historically, the city manager hasn't necessarily approved or denied subleases, but has allowed the 30-day kind of period to lapse, and thus equivalently approved.
And I'm going back all the way to maybe Floyd Johnson, and I'm
Right.
talking all the way
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Right. And so this is all just, it's for me part of this learning process of kind of what are our legal rights and so forth, and helping everyone understand that I think, just from my perspective, going forward, it's going to be best for the owners and the developers of BHMR and for the city to just us as a city to make sure that we're working with them and we're evaluating future subleases and approving or denying, as it were. So, Chris, am I kind of heading in an okay direction on that?
Yeah, I think so.
Makes sense. Okay. And then
I'll sit down with the city manager and explain to him what we discussed today. Because
Okay,
I don't know that I know he knows Article 20 and 26,
Yeah.
but just he's not privy to the conversations we had.
And then legally, Alan, how does it work if the city manager has the right to approve or deny a sublease? Does the city manager also have the right to approve or deny a sublease of a sublease?
Well, there's a lot of factors that go into that. It would depend what kind they were.
Yeah.
We'd have to look at that generally. One would think so if the primary lease would be subject to
That's what I
approval.
would think.
It's in all likelihood a sublease, so that particular lease probably also would be reviewable by the city manager under that clause. I don't know that the subleases are specifically or expressly referred to in the lease.
Right.
But logically, it would appear so. But
Yeah.
I would need a lot more information on that.
Okay. And there's a threshold. I'm not suggesting we review every sublease or whatever the case may be, but there's a threshold. I think it's important for Chris to be able to exercise his authority, as determined when there's, something of substance. So I just wanted to, I think that's helpful. Great. That's that. Then lastly, we've got brand new modular cubicles upstairs on the 8th floor, which are wonderful. Chris, thanks for your development of that. And just trying to figure out kind of who goes where on that. And we hadn't talked about this as a commission, and we can wait till Commissioner Vice Mayor Moritas comes back, but kind of where are staff going to be positioned on that, in these cubes, and kind of, just kind of figure that out.
Yeah, so we've looked at that space, and it accommodates at this point 4 elected officials, each with 2 offices and 1 cube.
Yep.
And I have, we've thrown out ideas as to how that naturally would, the flow might work. I haven't had a home run yet that somebody didn't, I've had versions that people agreed with that other people disagreed with. So at some point when the vice mayor gets back, I think we all just need to walk up there and hear everybody's perspective. We could even do a part of a published meeting so that we can walk up there collectively as a group and hear what your thoughts are about where you want people to be. Because I have not been able to come up with a solution that everybody has liked.
But I do want to thank you for really, it really looks nice. It works.
Yeah, it really does. It's great.
And I, it's a long time in coming. I know we're talking about a new city hall and all that, but that's going to take several years. But I think it's a much better workspace for everybody. So I understand there's some issues about placement. So, hopefully we can work those things out. But really, thank you, Chris, for making that effort.
Yeah,
It looks good.
It really does. It's a lot better, Chris. And I think you did it cost effectively too. And okay, so for the time being, if I'm hearing you right, Chris, you're saying for the time being, just folks sit wherever they want to sit for right now, and then we'll have a meeting. What, in a couple weeks? I mean, what do you want to do?
I think it would be nice for the commissioners to hear what each other has to say rather than trying to funnel it through me. When I tell you, well, I don't have a total agreement that that's a good way for it to go, and then I have to tell somebody else, well, I don't have total agreement. Rather than it being up in the air like that, we'll just advertise it for the next commission meeting, and we'll walk up there.
Well, if I don't show up for that meeting, can I be assured that I will still have an office?
No, that's actually going to be put in the pool, right?
We're going to break that up.
Right, we're going to break that up.
Okay.
And Commissioner Glassman's going to take your
of this
couch, I think, he said.
Yeah.
He wants-
But I do have a question on that, on what Commissioner Sorensen is asking. So, Chris, how was it determined that when folks came back, when City Hall was reopening, and Jeanette would say to people, okay, here's where you are, how was that all determined? I mean, people are not sitting where they're sitting now just by, I'm going to just go find a space. Jeanette actually did say, here's your space. Computers were set up in those spaces. Furniture was put in those spaces. So obviously it wasn't just a random thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I know that I've seen different versions with different names and different configurations and flow. So.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing a plan with people's names on it.
And there probably have been, although there's not been one that has been agreed upon.
I never saw that, so if there was one.
All right, so you arrange a meeting. And, okay.
Work it all out. Work together. One team. All right.
I can make assignments as long as you all are satisfied that it will be what it is, and it doesn't become a back and forth debate of can I swap this one for that one. So if you all want to take the subjectivity out of it, I'm happy to assign. Being in charge of the facility, I'm happy to assign. But I haven't been successful doing that yet.
What would you be basing your assignments on?
My opinion.
And what would your opinion be based on?
Well,
Subject.
right.
you know,
I'm just
you
trying to
guys,
get to the
you guys
bottom.
are cutting into my time here.
Okay, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it.
I think
obviously,
to me, it would just be I'd come up with a rationale that I could defend, and you all would either agree with me or not.
okay, but in the meantime, we'll all get to explain our rationale and defend it as well.
Exactly.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, so what, you want to do that, not have a meeting? Is that,
No, it sounds as though the commission would like to weigh in, so then I will schedule it for an opportunity for us to go up during a
all
meeting.
together? Okay,
Yes,
cool.
we can always arm wrestle over it too.
Right. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank
moving
you.
on.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You have mentioned amongst all of you a few of the things that I was going to speak about, so I'll just bring out the ones.
Send my statement.
Yeah. For those that attended the National Public Works Week at the hot dog lunch we had at City Hall, it was really well attended, and that was fun. Hot dogs were good, and I want to thank everybody in our Public Works Department, especially all the work that you've been doing. I know it's been a great challenge, especially our infrastructure work. Excuse me, the unscheduled and the scheduled, and I want to thank. Public Works for finally removing. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel with regard to our 7.5 mile sewer pipe. So it's all the neighborhoods are excited about seeing those road closures finally open up. Some of us attended the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance mid-year lunch on May 21st, and it was a great event, almost like a homecoming for so many of us who hadn't seen each other in over a year. Those events are great to network. Oftentimes we run into people and whose schedules are oftentimes difficult to coordinate, and we're able to exchange ideas and coordinate things that are often otherwise so difficult to coordinate. So anyway, continue to try to attend those. On May 20th, I accepted on behalf of the city an award from the Marine Industries Association of South Florida for industry advocacy. The MIASF awarded the city in thanks for its efforts in allowing the boat show to take place last year, and I think that is a shout out to everybody and our staff who helped make that a success. The groundbreaking at the War Memorial Auditorium, I tell you, you mentioned it, Commissioner Glassman, but that was really an amazing event, and yes, it was a great turnout, but I'll be honest with you, it was beyond that. It goes to show how transformative this commission is making this city, and with all of these opportunities for family-oriented and family-friendly sporting events and venues, and this is just one more opportunity for people to really come together and take advantage of a sporting opportunity that we might not otherwise see in a city like Fort Lauderdale. Okay, so yes, this is Pride Month, but equally important, June 12th is the Pride Flotilla. Yours truly will be the Grand Marshal of the Flotilla, which starts at the Laura Ward Park, and there will be approximately 40 to 50 boats in this flotilla. No, it's not going to try to compete with the boat parade, but it will be an event that will, since Pride event is now going to be rescheduled to November, this is just an event during Pride Month to recognize the Fort Lauderdale celebration of Pride Month. That same day, that evening, I will be attending, I don't know if anyone else is, the St. Anthony's Catholic Church 100th anniversary. It's going to be a wonderful event. I think it starts at 4:30 p.m. at St. Anthony's Catholic Church here in Victoria Park. And we'll be presenting a proclamation and another milestone in our community. Boy, 100 years. So that's great.
It's my alma mater.
Huh?
It's my alma mater.
Is it your alma mater? Yeah. Exactly.
So the guy that facilitated the presentation on the Riverwalk yesterday,
Right.
Bernard Rock,
Right.
he's a retired PE teacher from St. Anthony's. That's why we always take those pictures and put them out there.
Couple of things. The soccer game that took place this past weekend, if the capacity, the stadium was allowed to go to full capacity. Chris, you attended that. How did that work out with traffic and so forth?
So I touched in with the police department about halfway through the game. The travel time from 95 from the east over towards the stadium, as well as from the west, was estimated between 12 and 15 minutes from those intersections. So it wasn't terrible. I can tell you that it also wasn't completely full. So there was not 18,000 people there. There was, I don't know what the capacity was, the actual attendance was, but it was something less than that because you could still see open seats. It
was just under 16,000, they said.
Just under 16,000?
900 and something.
Okay, so it's almost full capacity.
Yeah, it was definitely a different feel compared to the 8,000 that had been there prior to. But, we'll debrief that. We didn't have a chance to do it today because this is our first day back after the holiday. But the feedback I got during the game itself was that it was travel was decent from both the east and the west.
Parking?
Are we manually manipulating the lights?
There's a whole traffic flow implementation there with certain lanes going certain directions and
I know
controlling it, et cetera.
Game that we went to, there was no, I don't want to say police, there was no manual manipulation of the lights, and I saw a lot of folks just over the curb, over the median, cross over 4 lanes, and they were cutting back up in the neighborhood, and I was one of them. But trying to save on time. But I think that light right there to the west on Commercial and Powerline needs some manipulation to keep the flow of traffic going.
We have a lot of traffic direction out there. I'm sure there's probably a really involved traffic plan.
They had them at the stadium, but I didn't see them at that light. And maybe they did something different for the full capacity.
It was different getting, because I've been at the game when it was 8,000 people, and I was there this last weekend.
Okay.
It was different both days. Of course, I shouldn't give away my secret that I'd go 31 Avenue North to Commercial and then come at it from the west, which is a much easier way to get to it.
I'll show you a better one.
You got one better?
Prospect, you can take that right behind.
Prospect would be good too, yeah.
Behind the industrial piece there, you come right out.
It was until now we both just said it. No,
just take the mayor's helicopter into the airport. It's very easy.
Where do you keep that?
Yeah, it's right there.
I'll get a better update this week, but first reaction was it was decent.
What about parking, Chris? How'd that work out?
So there was parking available all over the place. There's parking there's some parking at the stadium itself, obviously, that we know of. They are using both the FAU lot that they have under contract with us that fronts Commercial Boulevard, as well as several private lots. Now, they do have the benefit right now of being allowed to park on the south part of the site because it's still waiting to be developed. We don't need to.
Are we getting paid for that?
We don't. Yes, we don't need to lose sight of the fact, though, that when that becomes a park, that is going to pose a very different parking scenario. And so we're meeting with airport staff, stadium staff. This will be a discussion that's going to be a bigger one for us in the next year.
A little birdie told me that's not going to be a park anymore. It's going to be something else.
Are we talking about a parking structure?
Yeah. No. That piece where the community, where they're parking now, that's not theirs. It's ours.
No, I know, but somewhere on their site. When I say their site, the site that they're renting. Are we talking about a parking structure?
Probably have to look towards structured parking at some point, yes. Or the cobbling together of enough private lots like many professional stadiums do when they are in more of an industrial area.
Right.
It's not abnormal to have a stadium in an area where there's limited parking as long as there's sufficient surface parking within walking distance around it. I always go back to the Battery in Atlanta as my go-to to describe what that looks like, because literally the Battery in Atlanta has a very small parking deck, and the rest of it is just bought passes in other business commercial areas with adjacencies to the stadium. So we haven't tested that yet, by a function of the fact that we've gotten lucky that that south side is not developed yet and they can park there. But if we hadn't have been in the middle of this, coming out of a COVID pandemic, and we had just rolled into construction like we initially anticipated, yeah, parking would be a challenge for a full capacity game.
The Battery. You ever been to the Battery in Atlanta? It's amazing.
I've never been there. No.
Shopping centers. It's restaurants. You walk down to it's amazing.
Well, if the Uptown master plan is somehow fulfilled, that we didn't get a chance to discuss.
This is all one site. This is not jumping.
Well, it's right next to it. Anyway, sea turtles. It's my understanding that the state is trying to regulate and potentially remove volunteers from the beach who have long been involved in monitoring the sea turtle hatchling progress. And do we know anything about that?
We do, and it is that they are just being selective in who they're using. If you give me a couple minutes, I've got a formal response from FWC. I could pull it up and be happy to read it to you.
All right. But again, should they want to disassociate themselves from the volunteer crew that has been working the beach all these years, that presents a problem.
So the statement that I got from FWC when asking the question says the recent article released insinuated that the FWC was dismissive or unappreciative of sea turtle volunteer efforts, and this couldn't be further from the truth. More than 175 marine turtle permit holders across the state work tirelessly to conserve sea turtles, including hatchlings disoriented by beach lighting. The FWC appreciates the work of these volunteers, as their help has been instrumental in the success of sea turtle conservation throughout the state. Aside from unique circumstances in Broward County, these permits and associated activities will remain unchanged. In Broward County, the FWC has authorized 4 groups to respond to disoriented hatchlings during 2021. We're also encouraging these groups to continue their community-based sea turtle conservation efforts by focusing on activities that protect both mother turtles coming to lay their eggs as well as hatchlings trying to make their way to open water. In the rest of the state, FWC authorized sea turtle volunteer respond to reports of disorientations at night as needed, which allows for hatchling rescue while reducing potential disturbance. In Broward County, there's a potential for more than 100 volunteers to be out surveying the beach nightly for up to 6 months. The greater the human activity on the beach at night, the less likely a mother turtle will come and deposit her clutch of eggs. Females blocked from nesting may shed their eggs at sea, nest in more vulnerable locations, or leave the beach before completely covering their nest. FWC strives to balance the protection of individual animals versus the conservation of an entire species. The intent is not to eliminate the efforts of our dedicated volunteers, but rather to redirect them to activities that are more beneficial for the long-term survival of the species.
Okay, I mean, I've been out there a couple of times. I don't see 100 people out there. I think that's an exaggeration. Maybe 100 people over the course of the 6 to 8 months, but I think that figure is disputed. So if they're using that to justify their wanting to regulate it, I think it's based on a false premise. So are they taking over the monitoring of the hatchlings?
Yeah, so what I understand they're doing is they have agreed or appointed or whatever the right verb is, to appoint 4 groups of individuals to do this sea turtle monitoring, not the mass quantity that Broward County, I guess, has at its disposal.
So Broward County is regulating it right now?
No, FWC regulates it.
Mayor, I reached out to FWC on this because I was concerned too about this, and what they assured me was that this will not result in any reduction of the capabilities to, rescue turtles, identify all of that. That they're just selecting a more narrow number of organizations, but that there's going to be no impact on the work.
All right, we'll see.
Work, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, me too.
They're right.
We'll see quickly, right? I mean, it'll become apparent once they start hatching.
Okay, that's it for me, Mr. City
Can
Manager.
we go back and visit something you spoke about earlier? And this is another awareness.
The Pride Flotilla?
No. Education. Who's that guy that comes down on his paddleboard every weekend with his Speedos on? I mean, it's every weekend.
Where do
He should be the parade marshal
Where do you see it?
on the river. Every time we go out, boy, he's like a real rock star in that river when he comes down on his paddle.
Must have great abs.
No, he's a little skinny guy, but he gets he gets lots of applauses and stuff. So he needs to be in that flotilla, not me.
Okay.
I'll drive the boat.
Yeah.
Steve wear the Speedos.
Mr. City Manager, do you have any comments?
No,
I'm sorry.
I was trying to do something. You just,
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you finished. Go ahead.
No, you injected that on me. Anyway, you spoke about the 7 mile completion. And I know I've been talking about this. We had a long talk with Public Works the other day, city manager, on past experiences. We've started in the western part of the city with this same process. It's been some 3 years since completion, and probably 4 months ago, I brought up these potholes that are occurring along the route, and staff has come back and have informed me that it's leakage, and that's why they really can't go in and mitigate the asphalt repairs, because it's gonna just continue to sink until we mitigate whatever it is that's going on under there that's causing the surface of the sub rock to shift.
This is new stuff that we just
It's new stuff, and we talk about it, but I keep saying that we got potholes. They keep saying it's a bigger dive than just repairing the pothole. It's leakage. So the reason why I'm saying this is most of the 7.5 mile stretch is underwater, right? A lot of it.
It's 40 feet down, so yeah.
But I'm saying, it's going to go under some of our precious resources, and I just want to make sure, we don't have the same issue, or we either need to expedite what they're doing to find out and make sure there's some assurance. And I don't want to blow it out of perspective, but this is the only time we get to talk, and I care about the whole city, Steve, not just District 2. And this 7.5 mile pipe could have the same repercussions. And the pipes that I'm talking about aren't just in my district. They actually, Steve, go up 4th Street, just south of Eagle Trace and City View, and then go over to the museum. So it affects you too. But along all those I call them trunk lines, these potholes have been appearing.
So there's leakage in the new pipe?
We don't really know, but Raj, you said it was leakage, right?
There's something that is causing it that we need to identify and figure out exactly what it is. So I don't want to sound alarms where alarms don't need to be sounded, but
here's the problem I'm having, Mr. City Manager.
Okay.
I'm a part of this stamp of approval of what we're doing in the city, and I keep talking about it in our meetings. And we're just thinking about potholes. I think even Commissioner Glassman talked about potholes in his district, but those potholes are a result of something happening along the line. And it doesn't mean it's negative or anything. It just means that we need to address it.
Agreed.
And move forward. So I don't think we're going to create, an alarm. We just want to make sure that we have protections in place that this doesn't happen.
Raj, have you identified the source of the pothole development?
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the Commission. We are investigating most of your potholes. They are on those streets where major improvements are still pending. So I had sent out a report about 2 months ago where I've identified how we are going to address the pothole situation. One is going to be immediate, the second one is going to be intermediate, and the third one is going to be the long-term solutions, trying to find out what the causes are. As you know, most of our pipes are still brittle. They leak. They have separated from joints, and once they start settling, then obviously it has got a cascading effect. Then let's not forget that last year we had a significant amount of rainfall and many, many streets were flooded. Now, asphalt has a tendency that if you let the water sit there for several days, it eats into the asphalt and it has got the effect also. So if you combine all the aspects, it just makes it very difficult to say that the pothole is not going to happen here or it is going to happen there, etc. I think what Commissioner McKenzie is referring to is what has happened on Sistrunk.
No.
And
No, that's not true.
okay.
It's everywhere I see these potholes.
Okay.
That's how it started. So don't just
Potholes or sinkholes? That's what I'm
well,
concerned.
it depends. You can call people would know them as potholes, but they're sinkholes actually.
Okay.
But they're not huge in diameter, but they get to a certain depth where they would just damage a front end. I've gotten several invoices upstairs for car repairs. Folks telling me about these indentations. So whatever they are, I'm not just talking about Sistrunk. I'm just talking about wherever they occur. But it seems to me like they're occurring, and this is how I gave it to you, not just Sistrunk, they're occurring along these trunk lines, as I call them.
Yes, sir. And we are still investigating on case-by-case basis. It could be a whole host of factors, but I think your point was well taken. What alarmed me the most is if Sistrunk which is relatively new, and still we are having that issue, so that requires a special investigation that we are going to do. Going back again to your stuff, if it is appearing throughout the city, sir, unfortunately, your system is weak, and we will have to just investigate on a case-by-case basis. That's all I can tell
They
you.
repaved 4th Street, so you don't see it like it was happening when the commissioner was reporting a lot of it. They resurfaced that whole street, so maybe they carted or compacted the soil so it's not. I don't know what happened, but I knew back then that it was occurring down there too, and then it went on over to the Museum of Science. I mean, so I've seen it throughout the city.
Yeah, they are throughout the city. They are.
But where we did the new lines is what my concern is, not other sinkholes or potholes, just where these new lines went in is my concern.
Well, most of the new lines that you have, they have gone pretty deep, and some new lines that are there, it may very well be because the compaction was not done properly. So we would have to just investigate on a case-by-case basis, Commissioner. That's all I can tell you. I cannot tell you that there is one specific cause. There could be 3 or 4 different reasons that can happen, and we need to eliminate one by one.
Okay.
And I'm more concerned now as to what we're doing, if we can catch it now, before this warranty runs out. They give you a year warranty. If we can catch it then it's their cost, not our cost. Right now, the warranty is gone from the work of the contractor, and it's going to be our cost now. So if we catch it in the warranty stages, we save the residents some money. And you're the expert. I'm just giving you information.
Raj is on the case.
I'm not going to bore you. I can give you a crash course on it, but I can tell you that.
I actually know what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Yes.
On this one.
Yeah, but unfortunately, there are many factors that affect. But and once the system starts collapsing, then it becomes or starts having potholes. It just becomes very difficult to control until you do the investigation, and which we are going to be doing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you, Raj. Any further comments from the commission? Mr. City Manager, anything?
No, just to follow up to information I sent you on Friday, just keep you up to speed on the police chief search, as the commissioner brought up. You all are in receipt now of a list of what has been determined to be semifinalists. That's an important distinction, semifinalists of 8 people. We got to a list of semifinalists once before, and the Sun Sentinel got it wrong in their capturing and calling it finalists when they printed it back the first time. So clear distinction this time. The candidates will be in town now that we're coming back into an in-person environment. They'll be here Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's coming up in, I'm getting the correct dates, 11th, 12th, and 13th. There'll be opportunities for some community forums and other engagements on the 12th. Those details are being finalized with our executive recruiter now. as well as then I'll be meeting with them in more of an interview format on Sunday the 13th. The next time you should expect some movement forward and then some interaction with the commission is we intend to take the semifinalist list that is 8 and reduce it by half to create a finalist list of 4. If all goes well on the weekend of the 11th, 12th, and 13th, to manage your expectation, we'll be making the announcement of who those 4 are at your Tuesday meeting on June 15th. Then we will schedule time for those 4 to come do some interactions in one-on-one with you and me, and ultimately on track to make an announcement before the end of the month. Okay.
Okay.
You all should have that in your inbox on Friday. That's my only update and report tonight.
Okay. Mr. Boileau, do you have any report? None? Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. See you here at 6.